like to call this June 13th special meeting of the Holyoke City Council to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan.
Here.
Graney.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Leahy. LeBrun Martinez.
Here.
Lisi. Lopez.
Here.
McGee. McGivern.
Here.
Roman.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon. Valentine.
Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And the city of Holyoke.
And the City Council.
In Orlando. Councilors, by letter of yours truly, the City Council President Kevin Jordan, I have called a special meeting of the Holyoke City Council to be held today, Monday, June 13th, 2016, at 7:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers. The agenda for this meeting for this evening is twofold. One, second reading of the FY17 municipal budget. Two, City Council amendments and a final vote on the budget. This is the two items that are presented before us. I did want to just say, for the purposes of voting momentarily, I did pull from the name of the hat Linda Vacan. So Linda will be voting first tonight for purposes of the roll call votes. And I'll go through the whole budget rule procedure momentarily. But first, as you know, we had really sad news the other day. We had a real tragedy take place in Orlando. Certainly our thoughts and prayers are with the victims. I also wanted to recognize Councilor Roman for a few words as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, to my colleagues for reaching out to me and your sentiments of sorrow and sadness for the friend that myself and my colleague, Councilor Valentine, knew very well, who was an individual who worked in Western Mass and volunteered. I just want to say that your condolences and your well wishes and thoughts and prayers have been expressed to our entire LGBT community. And tonight, I thank you, Mr. President. Right before this meeting in my CPA, DGR, sorry, traumatized, DGNR committee meeting, I was at Enlace de Familias, who runs an LGBT youth program. And those individuals, myself and Councilor Valentine, went, and there was about 15, 20 people there, and those youth were unpacking their thoughts and feelings. And I thank this body, and it's a testament to this body, and I thank you so much for passing that resolution we did the other day. I was able to speak to those youth and say, the city of Holyoke and your council, our city council, are behind you, and we support you, and we do not support hate or violence or terrorist attacks on our constituency and on our citizenry. So thank you for that. It meant the world. And I just wanted to express my gratitude to all of you, and I thank you for having this moment, Mr. President.
Yeah, absolutely, and we thank you for the work that you're doing in the community, as well as Councilor Valentine in this regard, and certainly, this is a body that supports equality for all. And I would just say, I think it would be appropriate at this time, obviously, for those that have been lost, for the families who are suffering with the unknown and the uncertainty of why something like this happens, but also for the other 53 people who are critically injured, and what does the future bring for them. And I'd like to, at this time, have a moment of silence for all the people that we have lost in Orlando, but also for those who have been very seriously injured. Thank you. Our prayers and best wishes are with all of them. Councilors, the next item, as you know, I articulated the agenda for this evening. I would like to just go through a couple different things with you. First of all, again, for the veteran councilors, this will be refresher, but for those who've been here not quite as long, I'd just like to remind you basically how we do this is we go page by page with the budget. We start with page 1. We'll ask if there's any cuts to be made, just to refresh people's memory. We can only go one direction with the budget, downward. We have no authority to increase any lines, only to decrease in the 45-day window. That window will be concluding on Friday. The budget was originally presented to us on May the 3rd. How it'll work is if you have any particular budget item that you would like to see reduced, you would state what the description is, the object code, and then how much you would like to reduce that particular line item. You would make a motion to make that reduction. That motion does require a second. If somebody seconds it, we will then have a discussion, and you're welcome to, at that point, make your presentation as to why we should reduce that particular line item. If 8 counselors vote to make that reduction, the cut is made, and we move on to any other motions for that particular page. We will proceed in like fashion until we get to the back of the book, and then at that point, we'll be done, and then a motion to have the second reading and the final vote on adoption of the FY 2017 budget would be then in order. So, any questions procedurally at this point? Okay. Just in case anybody had this idea, there's been rulings in the past that you can't do something like, I motion to cut every department 3%. You're not allowed to do things like that. You have to go object code by object code. And so, I know myself, which I did email to all counselors, I had a list of proposed cuts that I myself am advancing this evening. The only one that I think would go into sort of that domain is related to the salary study adjustments. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 departments that had those. And so we have to articulate, it is the same object code when that motion comes up, but that would have to be made in 5 different departments. But we probably could do that as one vote, but as long as we're very precise and clear, it's that item and otherwise. Now, we're told that since we did not pass the salary adjustment change ordinance, that these automatically are eliminated from the budget, but I think it's best that we actually take that vote just to make sure that that's the case. But technically, I'm told that there's no ordinance to support those, and therefore they're automatically cut. But I think the council should go through the extra step of administratively making sure that's all set until that proposal is complete, and then that ordinance is changed. Any questions we have before we begin? Okay, so,
Mr. President,
yes, Council President.
I can make a motion to suspend the rules, allow the president to speak and debate on this matter.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to allow the president to speak and debate on the city budget. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Just going to limit the president to a minute.
Yeah, briefly.
Briefly, yeah.
Thank you.
And
And all counselors, as long
also.
as I'm happy to stay to 1 minute as long as everybody else stays to 1 minute. But I think, yeah, I mean, we should make our points, but I agree. You know, it's a lot of pages. We got a lot of material here to work with. I think brevity would be a nice, it's good to have a healthy exchange. Some of these are very weighty issues, but by the same token, let's keep that in mind. Maybe speak once, possibly twice if you have to have a retort, if somebody misstated something or misconstrued something that you said. But let's try and work our way through these as efficiently as possible to the extent that we can, okay? Because I think it would be ideal, although I did call a Thursday meeting just to have it in reserve for the purposes of finishing the budget. It really would be nice if we could do that tonight, and I don't see a reason why we can't. So if there's no other procedural questions or anything else, we'll get right to it. And so we'll begin with, and I'm going to move myself over to here, to my little seating position, and we'll start with page 1. And this side of the room, just raise your hand real high so I make sure I recognize you. And we'll begin with page 1. City Council budget. Anything
Mr. President,
for page 1? Councilor Bresnahan.
I make a motion that we cut $7,000 out of object code 57300, dues and subscriptions, based on the fact that the city of Holyoke survived being budgeted for $3,000 last year. I think we could do it again. We need to.
Is this on the City Council budget, page 1?
I'm sorry.
Page 1.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. So nothing on
cut
page
everything
1?
on the city council.
Okay. Hearing nothing on page 1, we now move to page 2, the mayor's budget. Councilor Bresnahan, I think this is.
Thank you, Mr. President. Object code 57300, cut $7,000 out of that line item, which is for dues and subscriptions.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Counselor Bresnahan, did you want to say anything?
Well, I mean, you know, again, we made it last year with $3,000. I know, you know, some of us are big fans of the municipal association, but I just don't think in this climate that's a good idea anymore. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor McGivern?
I would just speak against the cut because I do believe in the MMA, plus I also believe in the mayor's Washington group that we send our mayor to that association. I think they both reap benefits for the $10,000 that we would be appropriating.
Okay. Anybody else? Counselor Bacon?
I just seconded this motion because I think really the spirit of this is to stay at level funding, honor the hiring freeze that we all voted on. Our economics haven't really changed in the city, and so that's just sort of the general approach that I'm taking with the budget. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Leahy?
I'm going to support cutting this. One of the things that we did last year was cut this as well. And the mayor could always come in and ask for monies for the Mass Municipal Association and give specific reasons. You know, I've been a counselor for a long time. Any benefit of being a member of it. That's that.
Counselor Tolan?
Yeah, I'm against this cut. As Councilor McGivern stated, I think it's important for our chief executive to be part of the Conference of Mayors, and it gives us a little bit more power in what happens in this community. And this, as they said, strength in numbers. It's very important that we have somebody that is lobbying and meeting with other mayors in the United States.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to make the cut, a no vote is to deny the cut.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
9 yeas and 6 nays.
By your vote, you have reduced that line item by $7,000. Any other motions for page 2?
Keep going.
Mr.
Oh,
President.
Counselor Roman.
Oh, it's Counselor Valentine.
Oh, Bacon.
There you go.
Object code 51275 to reduce that line by 2,298 because the ordinance has not been adopted.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to reduce line item
2298.
Object Code 51275 salary adjustment study by the amount of $2,298. Motion's been made and seconded for those reasons that we had stated earlier. Any other discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. Yes vote is in favor of the cut, no vote is to deny the cut.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee? I'm sorry, Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you've approved the reduction of 2298. Any other motions on page 2? Counselor Bacon?
In the spirit of level funding, object code 51250 to reduce it by $1,000 on extra clerical.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? No further discussion. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the reduction, a no vote is to deny the reduction.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? No. McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
6 yeas and 9 nays.
By your vote, you have not made the reduction. Any other motions on page 2? Counselor Bresnahan.
Object number 57100, back to level funding of last year, in-state travel, down to $1,000, please.
Yep. Motion's been made and seconded to reduce in-state travel 57,100 by $1,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. Yes vote is in favor of the cut, no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
12 yeas and 3 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Oh, it's a reduction of 1,000. I'll be more clear. Okay, thank you. Yep.
Mr. President,
Mr. Bresnahan.
thank you. Item code 53190, reduce it to 0.
Okay, 53190,
Education and training.
okay, reduced by 500.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. This is to reduce object code 53190 by $500.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
2 yeas and 13 nays.
Mr. President,
Okay.
could I
By your vote, you've denied that cut. Counselor Graney.
could I revisit that same thing to reduce it by $250?
Okay. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to reduce it by $250. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to cut it by $250. A no vote is not to do that.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
8 yeas, 7 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction of $250 to that line. Any other motions on page 2? Counselor Bacon?
Object code 57800, to reduce this line by $1,000 to level funding.
Okay, 57800,
This is,
public and dignitary
public
receptions,
Receptions, yes.
reduced by $1,000,
Second.
okay, to what it was appropriated at last year, okay? That's the motion, that has been seconded, any discussion? Oh, Counselor Bacon,
I would just note that things of this nature are a bit of a luxury item when we're really struggling citywide.
okay, Counselor McGivern, did you have your hand up?
Yes.
Okay, Counselor McGivern.
The final appropriation was over $4,000, so the mayor's request is less than what was spent last year. I think this is used for something that's important when we have people coming in from out of town and being able to greet them in a setting that is appropriate of the dignitary or appropriate of what the event or what the initiative is about. And I think any mayor's office, most mayor's office have, 10 times as much, on an item like this. I think 3,000 is reasonable.
Okay, any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Counselor Bresnahan?
I would think that many mayors are not facing the financial problems that the city of Holyoke is facing, so we really have to tighten up the budget. I mean, this is just a luxury item that, any dollar that we can save, we got better money to spend on, more police, more fire, no brownouts, a better school department. We don't need to be having luxuries like public dignitary receptions.
Any other discussion? Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, it appears we only spent $730 in 2015. To quadruple this number seems extravagant, too. It's not a huge budget item, but, in the spirit of cutting.
Yep. Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to make the $1,000 reduction. A no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan. Graney.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
No.
Lopez.
Yes.
McGee. McGivern.
No.
Roman.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
13 yeas and 2 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction of $1,000 to that line. Any other reductions for page 2? Counselor Roman.
Mr. President, Object Code 54200, I'd like to propose a cut of $300 to leave that at level funding.
Yeah,
Second.
that has been seconded for level funding for that proposal. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. This is to reduce by $300, line 54-200, office and professional supplies.
Bacon.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Bresnahan. Graney.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Leahy.
No.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
No.
Lopez.
Yes.
McGee. McGivern.
No.
Roman.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
12 yeas, 3 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction of $300 to that office and professional supply line. Anything else for page 2? Hearing none, moving on to page 3. Office of the City Auditor. Counselor Leahy.
Yeah, Object Code 53010, which is professional accounting and auditing.
Yep. A motion has been made to reduce 53010 professional accounting by how much, Counselor Leahy?
$15,000.
By $15,000. Okay, that has been seconded. Any discussion? This is the one the auditor had pointed out to us. This is a biannual audit, and this happens to be the off year, so he articulated to us at the hearing this was not necessary, so.
This current year is the off year, 2016. This study will be paid for and done in 2017. We do it every 2 years. Costs $15,000. Have a choice. It's a statutory requirement to do it.
All right.
Study of
You just speak at the microphone. People at home can't hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I believe we went over this a couple times.
I explained why it is in the budget for 2017. It is a 2017 expense. The study is going on now. It will be completed in December. We'll get a bill in December, and that's when we pay it. It did not occur in 2016, which is why we only spent $59,000 in 2016. But it will occur in 2017. It has to. It's a statutory requirement.
Okay, okay. I thought we went over that, but
I think I heard the same thing you did, Council President.
I thought so. That's why I made it my list right here. I was pretty clear
My
about
list,
that.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah, we'll withdraw in light of the new information, so I'll withdraw my second. Okay. Anything else for the Auditor's Department? Page 3, Counselor Bresnahan.
Thank you. Object Code 51101, reduce it by $5,654 to last year's budget. We have a city auditor that has not even started. We don't know the status of his living arrangements, and he's already starting into the office with a raise of $5,654. I suggest that we put it back to the budget that it was last year at $69,346.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Under discussion, I'm just going to add factually, just so the benefit of the council, I'm the one that asked to have it put at $75,000 due to the qualifications of the candidate that ultimately was selected. And so, as I stated at the budget hearing, that's why we came up with 75. When the candidate starts is, there could be some potential for savings, but I would note that it's slated to be in early to mid-July that the candidate is going to begin. So that's right in the fiscal year. That would be my only main point on that. I don't think there'll be a huge savings, certainly not to $6,000, unless there would be a salary reduction, but then I don't know if the candidate would agree to under $75,000. That was kind of where we were going with the salary. So other people, thoughts, conversation? I did want to recognize Councilor Lisi. She had her hand up first.
Thank you. I would assume that there's a hiring contract and the city had negotiated a certain salary rate.
No contract, but I had, obviously, the gentleman was selected, and since he's our appointee, I had a sit-down conversation with the gentleman, and he's making exceptionally much more than $75,000 currently, and coming to the position, I felt that was a fair salary, so that was what I had recommended for the budget. subject, of course, to your appropriation.
Mr. President,
Yes, Counselor Graney.
city auditor.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Counselor Graney. Counselor McGivern did have his hand up first, just a moment.
I yield the floor to the senior Counselor Graney.
Counselor Graney.
Oh, ye
Rank, yeah.
Oh, ye of less locks.
We'll talk about that
Or I
later.
should say appropriate English is fewer.
Counselor Graney.
I think that the city auditor probably is the most important position in the city of Hoyoke, and I don't think that a $75,000 salary for this position is outrageous. And I think that to get a gentleman of the quality that we have to do this job, I don't think we're going to find a better candidate, and I think that the salary is appropriate at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor McGivern.
I couldn't say it better. We're getting something at a bargain, Mr. President. I think you did the right thing in negotiating the salary. It's our appointment. For years, it still is, civil service, but without the exam. And I think the fact that Harry's actually coming in at less than what he's making now with the state, I think we're getting a bargain with the wealth of experience in one of the most important positions we have.
Oh, Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. Harry came in and gave a great interview, and I believe it was a fair market, which you stated, the $75,000. He has a wealth of knowledge that is going to help the city, and it's a very important position in the city of Holyoke, so I am totally against this cut.
Counselor Bacon.
I would just note that if the start date is after July, we will recognize some savings to the extent that we start paying the salary later. It might not be the 6,000, but it might be, 3 or 4. And I would say that this was a candidate who was very thoroughly vetted, as opposed to some other concerns that we've had in the past. So I think this is a different situation. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Valentin.
Thank you. I'm going to be voting against this cut, but I also just wanted to say for the record that perhaps in the future, maybe just a communication to the council, because it's the first time that I had heard that you had kind of negotiated this salary, since it's an appointee of the body, to just kind of have a more inclusive process of, even if it's just saying, this is what I think I want to go with, just so you're all aware. Just for the record, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
It came up when the auditor had his budget hearing, and I gave a full discussion of it at that time. But to your point, maybe I could have sent a memo out, so point taken. Was there anybody else? Counselor McGivern?
Just to point out, it's also a salary range, and the president just decided to go at the higher end of the range, which is appropriate with the experience that the new auditors bring into to the table.
Counselor Bresnahan.
Thank you. So I imagine that then we should give the fire chief his raise. Let's give everybody else that all the department heads, the health director's been making the same for over 5 years. We have a gentleman coming in who his resume looks great, and this is not about the person, this is about the position. He's starting off higher than Brian Smith, who was here for 35 years and did a great job, and you've all spoken about how much of a great job he did. Maybe Brian wouldn't have left if he was making $75,000. So we have a gentleman who we do not know the start date. I've been asking Bob Judge, the personnel director, for a start date. We still don't have it. He doesn't know. Our personnel director does not know when the start date of the auditor is. I can imagine if this goes through, it'll probably be tomorrow. $69,000 is what was allocated last year. So for someone that he has not worked a day for the city of Holyoke yet, right out of the gate, and being in management, you hire and work with people, you let them go, you fire them, you pick them up, you interview them. Who's heard of a job like that where before you even start, right out of the gate, he's getting a $5,600 raise? It just doesn't make sense to me. There's a lot of people down the road that are looking for an exorbitant amount of money, that are Holyoke residents. Building commissioner's been here a long time. Fire chief's been here a long time, but we're gonna cut those. But before we get 1 day of labor, and I'm sure he's volunteering his time, and this is not about him, this is about the position. We need to make hard cuts. We just cut $300, right? So, but don't cut the $5,600 because we wanna make sure, when you go to interview for a job and you accept a job, you accept that salary. If promises were made, well, that's not on me. But we have to be strict on this budget because we are in desperate times. We need a new building for the school department. They have to get moved. Even if Suffolk Street goes away, well, it ain't gonna be free to move them. So every nickel and dime that we can save to get them relocated to a better location is what we need to do. So if we're not gonna save $300 over here, hey, Joe, pass the whole budget as it is right now. Let's give
President.
everybody $16,000.
We'll try referencing other counselors to a minimum by name, only where necessary.
My apologies.
Thank you. Was there other hands up on the debate? I think we've quantified the issues at stake here on this motion. So without further ado, if there's no other thoughts, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for making the 5,000, how much?
560.54.
560.54 cut. A no vote is to not do that.
Can you say that number one more time?
$5,654.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
7 yeas and 8 nays.
By your vote, you've not made the cut. Okay. Anything else on page 3, auditor? Counselor Sullivan.
I'd make a motion that the same line item, we cut it by $4,000.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to cut it by $4,000. So, okay, under discussion, go ahead. Would you like to say anything?
No, I think Danny summed it all up pretty good. Also, we don't have any idea when the guy is actually starting. This is a budgetary process. Unless he starts immediately, we won't be paying any money out till August anyways. We're not cutting the $75,000 that he's hired at. What we're cutting is what we're budgeting for this year to spend on.
All right, so let me make a couple points. One is, it's supposed to be mid-July. That's what I was told by the candidate. He's transitioning out of state service. He's worked there for Lord knows how many years, okay, a long time. And there's wind down that goes involved with that. And he's wrapping up to do his transition to this position. So, I mean, we're going to save a couple weeks' salary. The guy's not making $4,000 every 2 weeks. So I don't see where the mathematically that adds up.
Well, by this budget, he's making $6,000 a month.
Okay.
If he starts mid-July, I imagine his first pay period is sometime in August. So we only have $66,000 in exposure.
But it's encumbered, though. There's no free salary you start getting paid day one, though. That's encumbered dollars.
We should be debating this.
Well, right, and that yeah, that's another good point. Thank you. Yeah, Bellamy makes a good observation. The other thing and I failed to mention this part, but it should be obvious, Bellamy isn't working for free, as gracious as he is. We have an auditor at all times. It isn't that the position's vacant. It's basically whatever day Harry begins, Bellamy leaves. There's not going to be like 2 weeks Harry's in the Bahamas and Harry's here, there's nobody in the job. These guys are simultaneously transitioning. So whatever pay for those 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we got to pay Bellamy. So there's no it's not the position's vacant. It isn't like somebody left and there's a gap like we have, for example, like DPW superintendent potentially, or some of these other positions. There's still a salary being drawn. Counselor McGivern.
Also, Mr. President, we are obligated by state statute, by finance state statute, to have a 12-month support of any item like this. We can't go month by month, week by week, paycheck by paycheck. The money here has to support, and it's a good point that it's actually 2 people. The position is filled on July 1, regardless of when the new person starts. So if we reduce this, we could chance that the auditor wouldn't be able to pay themselves, whether it be Bellamy or Harry, because the 12-month appropriation is not in place.
Okay, Counselor Bacon?
And I would just note, it's been 2 years that we have been recruiting, interviewing, and vetting people for this position. This has not been a lightly taken endeavor, and you guys all know I'm usually on the other side on these votes, but I just see this differently. Thank you.
Counselor Roman?
I have to disagree with my colleagues and support my colleague, Councilor Sullivan's amendment. I think we're cutting throughout this entire budget, and I think that this is a smart compromise, not at the high level, and I think it's a fair in-between compromise to have everyone across the board save some funds. So I'm in support of my colleague, Councilor Sullivan's proposal.
Okay.
A question, Mr. President.
Yes, Counselor Green.
How much does it cost to advertise and solicit for this position in the long run?
Well, right. I mean, if person says, I'm not going to take the job for 71,000, then yes, we're presented with what you just said, which is advertise, repick, or re-advertise, seek another position. Because we've already agreed now that there's somebody in this every day of the all work days, right? So Bellamy and him are coordinating the times off, so there's no savings there. I think we've answered that. The only thing you would be saving is forcing a lower salary, but then if the candidate don't accept the lower salary, then you're presented with the point you just made, which is re-advertising, trying to find another candidate, going through the whole process again, and you're back to square one.
And I might add, Mr. President, at this time with the fiscal situation in the city, I don't think that's a good idea.
One could certainly argue that. Counselor Lopez.
If I may, Mr. President, when we advertise this position, did we advertise for 75 or 71 or a different number?
I believe it said salary based on experience.
Okay, so we never advertised for
A specific salary, no.
No. And do we have a contract with this person, or we don't
This
have
is not a
anything?
contract employee.
But I mean, we don't have anything on paper.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay. So,
This is a conversation
okay.
that I took upon myself as my leadership role to say, okay, this person has been selected. What salary is the two parties fair? And I came up with, after this discussion, recognizing what he's being paid now, which I can tell you is considerably more. He's a public employee. Go look it up. There's methods to do that. If you want to know, it's a lot more than this, I assure you. And so that's the number we arrived at, and so that's where we're at.
Okay.
Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I mean, I would find it highly unlikely that the job was posted without a salary range. I mean, the job postings and every downstairs, they all got a salary range, but we didn't post the auditor's salary range. I mean, assistant treasurer's got a range on it, the DPW superintendent's got a range on it, but we didn't post this range. I mean, if decisions were made to leave one job to go to another job, you got to understand that. The HR director does not know the starting date for this position. We don't know the residency requirement. Perhaps we do. I don't know, but I don't know where the residency requirement piece of this is. But before he moves into town, we're going to start him off at $5,600 more than Bellamy Schmidt was making. I'm imagining Bellamy might have wanted to make $75,000 a year. I mean, who makes a salary raise before you start the job? I can't get my hands around that. I'm sure he does a wonderful job. This is not about him. But the fact of the matter is that last year we paid Bellamy $69,000. Now he's got an increase of $5,600 this year. I'll vote against it. Let's just move on the vote,
Right.
so we can keep moving.
Yeah. Councilor Valentin.
Just very quickly, I've been listening to the feedback from my colleagues, and I'm actually going to be voting in support of this one. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay, great. So, Councilor Sullivan.
Just one last thought for everybody. If the person that is hired lives up to Bellamy's high standard and we've got another budget, we can vote an appropriate pay raise the following year also to reward the person. But to go in on a unknown quantity, I think it's a good starting range.
I know, but,
No, I don't. I'm told, you and I are on the same side on this one. Councilor McGivern.
no, you cannot do that. And that's why that salary study is sitting in the ordinance committee, not voted on. And that's why we get stuck on these things all the time. Without an appropriation in the budget, we cannot give anyone a raise. This is it's a D8, it's a department head 23, a low-end salary for an accountant, a low-end salary for an audit. We've lost department heads over the years, because of these low salaries. People that are incredibly experienced that will help this city. We're addressing a 12-month budget for two people. Bellamy came out of retirement for how many months? 3 months? For the past year and a half, he's done the job at something reduced from what he could earn in the public or private sector. And certainly, we will not have any control over this ourselves after tonight. The president did the right thing. I just ask you to consider that.
Basically, by voting to make a cut of $4,000, you are saying this candidate shall not receive a pay greater than $71,000. You better hope he agrees to that, because if not, he says no, and we go right back to square one. Just so we understand that when we go to vote. And does anybody question my reputation for cutting things around here? Okay? I vote to cut lots of things all the time. You'll see them. I've got a whole list right here, right? But my goodness, this is not even a no-brainer. This guy deserves the 75 grand. If you think he's going to agree to 71, that's the gamble you're making by voting yes. Because if he says no, we lose the candidate. Just know that in advance. Here we go. Anybody else?
I just want to briefly say that, number one, there's a lot of people in this city that deserve way more than the salaries they're getting right now. So that's one thing. And I'm thinking about the retention of our people, separate from the fact of a newcomer saying, yes, I'm going to stay with this. So I actually have an issue with a statement like, this, and nothing personal against this specific person, but it's not the candidate I voted for, but that's irrelevant right now. What I'm saying is there are people in this city that have worked here for decades for less than what they should get paid. So I'm just thinking about how those folks feel right now about us having this conversation. That's number one. And number two, if the person decides that this number is not agreeable, then I'm willing to take that gamble. Thank you.
Okay, as long as we know that up front, that's all I'm asking. I'm just putting all cards on the table. Counselor Vacan.
I would just note in this regard that we have been recruiting for this position for 2 years. We went through round after round. We were made well aware of what the issues and concerns around it were. We've all had the budget to look at for over a month. There's no secrets going on here with this, and if people were able to attend the meetings, it was public. And I am definitely probably one of the most fiscally conservative people in the room, but you've got to get people in these positions that have the qualifications to get the work done. And if we're set back another year, then it's not speaking well to the challenges that we were given by the Department of Revenue to keep our house in order, to control our costs. And I think this is a fair, low salary for somebody with the qualifications that we finally found after 2 years.
On the motion.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, I think we've all made our points. Madam Clerk, if you would be kind enough to read the roll. This is on reducing the auditor's salary by $4,000. A yes vote is to make the cut, a no vote is not to make the cut.
Bacon? No. Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
8 yeas, 7 nays.
Okay, you've made the reduction to a salary of $71,000 for auditor. All right, any other cuts on page 3, auditor? Hearing none, moving on to page 4. Procurement,
Mr. President?
Counselor Vacan.
Item code 51101, reduce it by $2,000, and I feel confident that my colleagues who just voted for the last
Oh.
cut should be very warm on this cut, since we have an unnamed person
Boiling.
in the position, and apparently would be brought in at the rate of the person who just left after working here 30-some-odd years.
Right.
Second.
I'll second that. This vote should be unanimous based on the logic of the last vote. Right. So a reduction of $2,000 to Object Code 51101 to Chief Procurement Officer.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilor Bresnahan.
To my colleague, Counselor Vacon, I was gonna go deeper than $2,000. I can tell you that because Dave Martins was there making $58,644 after 25-plus years of service. And then all of a sudden, we have somebody starting right out of the gate at his top salary range. Just doesn't make sense.
You want to make an amendment?
Make an amendment.
I'll make amendment that we reduce it by $4,000.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to make it 4,000. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
30-something years for Mr. Dave Martins. 9 of the last years, not one salary increase, not even a cost of living. That's what we're dealing with here. The salary proposal stuck in the ordinance committee is dealing with the problem of giving people like Dave Martins an appropriate raise as the years go by. There isn't a person in this room that doesn't think they don't deserve a raise, at least a cost of living where you work. Let's treat our employees the way they should be.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I wanted to say something similar related to the salary study. So I think what we're seeing here today is that we're going line item by line item and trying to figure out a rate that is competitive and market-based for the work that's going to be associated with the job descriptions. And I think that the ordinance committee had passed out at least once the salary study as a way to, make sure that we're making these salary adjustments in a fair and unbiased way, and that it would be reflected in what the market salaries are, so that we could attract and retain talent. I think Councilor Valentin was making similar comments earlier. So, we want to be able to attract and retain talent, and we can't do that with the salaries at the levels that they're funded at currently. And I think that we are injecting a lot of politics by going line item by line item in this fashion. And might I just add that we had requested the salary study be completed and undergone years ago because we didn't want to be put in this position where we're going line item by line item. So I'm advocating once again that we consider passing the salary study that came before us in the past year.
Mr. President.
Councilor Bacon.
This position is not in that study or this budget.
Number 2, the law dictates that we go line item by line item.
I understand that for the budget hearing, but we did have a salary study package in front of us where we could make changes to the entire salary structure as opposed to with the individual ordinances and associated salaries.
Right. And
Mr. President.
if we went along with that, we'd need a second budget to pay for those. Councilor Greenie.
Mr. President, that's a separate issue. Let's go to the budget. Let's do the budget hearing, okay?
Right. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay. Motion on the floor is to reduce Chief Procurement Officer 51101 by $4,000. Yes votes to do it, no votes not to do it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
No.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
9 yeas, 6 nays.
By your vote, you've reduced that line by $4,000. Okay, anything else on page 4, procurement? Hearing none. Moving on to page 5, assessors. Anything for page 5, assessors? Counselor McGee.
Let's see here, my ruler out. 51106, floating clerk. That's
Okay.
another lawyer one there?
Yes.
Yeah, 51106. Make a motion to cut 16,500.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to eliminate the floating clerk line of $16,500. That motion's been seconded. Under discussion, Counselor McGee.
Really, for me, the floating clerk, I'd rather have a full-time person in that position. What am I really floating around to? How is it tracked? What are they really doing? If I'm in the assessor's office, I'm in the collector's office, the treasurer's, I'm floating around, there's a conflict of interest there. So to me, I don't see the benefit of the floating clerk other than it's a part-time job that really isn't gonna offer the city much. For me, cut the position, make a full-time position that can actually do the work that we need. So for me, I just don't see the point of this.
Okay. Any other thoughts, discussion on this? Counselor McGivern.
Just to point out that, point well taken, but the other positions have been requested in the budget for clerk positions have been eliminated. And with the consolidation of the offices downstairs, this floating clerk is part of a system that we've talked about for years, where different departments will share a clerical person. And we heard both from the tax collector and from the assessors and from the treasurer that this floating clerk stuff seems to be working. And you know, we've asked for it for years, that people share duties in different departments during busy times of year in a given department, and I think it's worth a try.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $16,500 reduction. A no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
No.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Nope.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman? Sullivan?
No.
Tolman?
No.
4 yeas, 10 nays, 1 absent.
By your vote, you've voted not to make that reduction. Anything else on the assessors? Hearing none, moving on to page 6. Office of the City Treasurer. Counselor Tallman?
Yes, item number 51250, proposed cut of 10,000.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second to reduce extra clerical, line 51250 by $10,000. Counselor Tallman?
Yeah, I believe that these funds are no longer needed for the fiscal year by the treasurer.
And that's what she stated at the budget hearing. Because she's getting full funding for 4 positions. She felt the extra clerical was not needed this year. Okay. Any other thoughts on this?
Just to
Councilman
point
McGivern?
out, if there's going to be any other motions on this page, that what she did tell us is that this became part of the floating clerical, which is a line item, 2 line items above this line item.
Point well taken. Yep.
Mr. President,
Counselor Graney?
what was the amount of that cut?
10,000.
10,000.
Okay.
To eliminate she said at the hearing we could eliminate, because she got the 4 positions, she was fine with cutting the extra clerical. She didn't need it this year. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of reducing the 10,000 to extra clerical. A no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
14 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved the reduction. Anything else on Treasurer's Office? Page 6. Seeing none, moving to page 7, Tax Collector. Any proposals for page 7? Counselor Leahy?
Yes, I'll go with line item, object code 54210. I propose $6,000 to be cut.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Motion on the floor is to reduce parking tickets, object code 54210, reduced by 6,000. Under discussion, Counselor Leahy.
During the budget hearing meetings,
Right.
something, yeah.
She mentioned about here, my footnote was, parking ticket exploration program was reviewed at the hearing. was determined not to be necessary at this time can be cut. A future proposal may come to us in the future from her. She said we could level fund it to the 2,000 that we normally give. That was the hearing note. Okay, any other thoughts, discussion on this item? Hearing none, the clerk will call, oh, I'm sorry, did somebody want to be heard? Okay. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to reduce $6,000 to line 54-210. A no vote is to deny.
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Cut again.
Unanimous.
Yes.
14 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved the reduction of 6,000 to that parking ticket line. Counselor Tallman?
Yes, I'd like to make a cut, object code 51910, cut that $1,000.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to reduce line 51910, certification stipend by $1,000. Under discussion, Counselor Tallman?
Yeah, she stated that she supports this cut. She is not eligible to get the certification, to receive it.
That's correct, yep. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. Motion is to reduce $1,000 from line 51910, certification stipend. Yes vote is for it, no vote is to not cut it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
14 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved the reduction of $1,000 to that line. Anything else on tax collector? Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, line item 57100, in-state travel. Motion reduce it by 500.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to reduce line 57100, in-state travel, reduced by $500 from $1,000 to $500. Under discussion, Counselor Sullivan?
Well, I'm seeing we only spent $81 the previous year, doing 10 times as much in the budget. We ought to cut it in half.
Okay. Any other thoughts, discussion on this? Counselor McGivern?
But part of the in-state travel will be for our new tax collector going to the proper training and certification processes, which are, none of them are around here that I recollect. The former tax collector already had the certification, and the amount of times to travel wasn't as necessary. When her initial start as tax collector, Ms. Chakowski will have to get those certifications, and I think she made the argument about the things she'll be traveling for are part of this, her training and part of what she needs to do to remain tax collector.
Anybody else? Counselor Sullivan?
Sure.
I agree, but it's in-state travel, some gas, some tolls, a few meals. It's for travel, not training, in the budget.
Okay, Counselor McGivern?
In-state travel is not about gas and tolls. In-state travel is if you're required to go somewhere and stay overnight for a training, stay overnight for a conference, it pays for your lodging, it pays for the travel, it pays for everything that comes with it, including during the work hours, the meals that you eat.
Sorry.
Okay. Any other thoughts, discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of making the $500 reduction in in-state travel. A no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
10 yeas, 4 nays.
By your vote, you've reduced that line by $500. Anything else on tax collector, page 7? Hearing none, moving to now page 8, Office of the City Solicitor. Okay. Any motions on this page? I'll make a motion. I have one for line 51103, associate solicitor, reduced by $49,000. The position's vacant currently.
Second.
Okay. All right. Under discussion, just to basically review with this, the city council had passed a hiring freeze proposal for non-department heads, non-public safety positions. This new position is something that should be really considered with the city council. My point now is the current city solicitor who's acting, who's doing a really good job, but the problem is she's basically the new city solicitor of Holyoke. I would like to have guidance with the city council on the new position to talk about having a legal advisor and legal counsel for the city council with this new position. I would like to discuss that new role. If we're going to create a new attorney position or fill this attorney position, this is a fourth position in the office. The gentleman that was in this position was promoted up to assistant solicitor. He received a $6,000 pay raise, I was told at the budget hearing. This position needs to really be, I think, more of what the traditional legal advisor of the city council, and I think we could have a shaping of the ordinance related to the law department on this position. So since there's nobody in this position, I think this is the opportunity to do that, whereas it's kind of hard to redeploy or reassign once somebody's already in the position. So I think there's basically the intent under the current rule, if this position is not altered, is to kind of continue with this ongoing where Kara's the acting city solicitor and she's also the legal counsel for the city council at the same time. And as you know, we've discussed about that's not the ideal scenario, but it appears this is going to be, that worked for a while on a temporary basis, but now where we have an opportunity now to fix this on a more permanent basis, I think we should at least have that conversation, and I think this is the opportunity to do it. So that's why I support making this reduction instead of just filling this job. It's also consistent with the hiring freeze. If we're actually having a hiring freeze, that means don't hire people, right? That's what the hiring freeze means. And I believe we passed that, if not unanimous, pretty close to unanimous. Councilor Lisi.
So I'm just a little bit confused because the way I understand it, this position is currently filled. It wouldn't be a new position. We may be losing somebody, which would free up that space. But what you're talking about in terms of creating a city solicitor that's dedicated to the city council, I don't see how that is tied into the narrative that you created about this open position.
Yeah, the position is empty. It's currently posted. The person who used to be in this job, he was promoted to one of the 3 assistant positions. Okay, so they moved. There used to be 2 and 2. Now it's 3 and 1. There's 3 assistants and 1 associate. It used to be 2 assistants, 2 associates. So the 3 attorneys who are working full-time in the office now are 3 assistants, and the associate position, this one, is currently out and posted.
Yep.
Okay. The 5th position, we know, was taken, and that money was determined by the department not to be needed, and asked us to transfer all that money into outside counsel, so we did that. So this position, I would like to have a conversation about being this, but.
Sure, but
Yeah.
so for years, we've had Kara, right? And I understand
Right.
that Kara's, the responsibilities are starting to like change and evolve, and you would like someone dedicated to the city council, but I'm just a little bit unclear about how, I wouldn't want to have somebody that is coming in as an associate. Is that what it is? The associate as opposed to the assistant?
Or at least the money. I think that's a fair salary if we could get somebody. I think the problem that we had is Kara, we always had a city solicitor with Kara, but basically the mayor has, and we heard at the budget hearing this year, he has no intention. In fact, he didn't even fund it. Like last year, he funded it, right? He didn't fill it, but he at least funded it with the intent that he could. He has stated to us now, we will not have a city solicitor. It's going to be the current arrangement with Kara being the acting on a permanent basis. And my point is, I would prefer a different model. as I've said this to Kara already, that my preference is that we have a city solicitor model, and then we also have the legal advisor to the city council. And I think this is the open position to do that. And I think if we don't go this direction, I think the position will be filled, because there is an active posting, and then these duties will be deployed for other uses, and it'll basically continue as is. It'll be Kara being the acting city solicitor and the person that was appointed into the legal advisor of the city council role. So it'll basically be status quo. My point is, we should change that the person who's the acting city solicitor should not also, on a permanent basis, be the legal advisor to the city council. And so it's a structural thing is what I'm going with.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. And I'm supporting this not out of any disregard or disrespect for any of the people that are doing the work in the city.
Right.
But at the time that we created the ordinance, we had the expectation that we would always have a city solicitor. It's a new development, and the whole context has changed for the legal department because of that. So I just do think we need to revisit it. Just unexpected development. Thank you.
Counselor McGee?
Thank you. Normally, I'm making proposals to cut everything for level funding. And there was supposed to be a hiring freeze, but we know that hasn't really been complied with, so I won't kid myself on that one. Last year, I made a proposal to cut the position where we're going to add to the budget, which would have been that new attorney for the receivership. That was going to be a great thing, and then we took that money back, and we paid for outside counsel fees and everything else. We didn't even hire anybody. So we lost that position. We did hire 2 people, Paul, and I forget the other gentleman's name, but the other gentleman has left.
Bill Newcomb. Yeah, he left.
So, there it is.
Yeah.
So he left, and now they are realistically down to 3. Whether or not they promoted Paul or whatever they did, he took over all the housing cases. So we've asked our legal department to keep as much as possible in-house and cut the costs, which, based on all the numbers I'm seeing now, is they're complying with that. So to not have them have a 4th attorney only goes against with what we've been trying to do, is keep everything in and not force it back out and cost us more. So it is a position that they do need, although we're saying it's adding to the, or going against a hiring freeze. Like I said, that hasn't been complied with. So here, it's a position that's not adding to the role. The 5th position last year was. This is just bringing them back to where they should be, because a person left, and they are posting for it. They need the attorneys. We need to keep it running smoothly. I understand your argument, but right now, I'd say pull the posting, repost as how you want to, but don't get rid of the position. Don't unfund it. That would be my argument. So that's why I'm going to vote to keep the $49,000, because we do need an attorney. That's just my opinion.
The dilemma we have, as you know, is I have no authority to make Kara pull the posting, right? I mean, this is the only way that we can have, I'm for 4 positions. I'm not against 4 positions. The question is, what's the role of the 4th position? My point is, let's have a long-term plan for the law department, which speaks to dealing with this dilemma of us now eliminating the city solicitor and having the city solicitor being both the city solicitor and the attorney for the city council. So that, to me, is not okay on a permanent basis. We've now heard that that is going to be the permanent scenario, right? So the mayor has made a decision, that's his right, I suppose, to not have a city solicitor. But that doesn't mean I have to agree, or we have to agree, that that's a good idea for our purposes, because the woman that he has selected to do that also simultaneously happens to be the legal advisor to the city council, and I'm not okay with that. It was okay on a temporary basis, but to say that that's going to be the permanent deal, that's not okay. And I think we need to have a conversation about this posting, about the role, and the council should refund it when we have that authorization that we're going to restructure. And I think that's really the direction we should go. And I think this is the vehicle to do it. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I just wanted to state that, we rearranged all the job descriptions in that department without any salaries in flux or at play. So I think that really if we want to restructure the ordinances and the responsibilities of the different roles in that department, we have the ability to do that at any time. We don't have to make it contingent upon the withholding or granting of this salary associated with this position. I think that they're two separate issues, and we're the legislator, so we could create whatever we want in terms of roles and responsibilities within that office. And we got a lot of feedback from Kara about why they wanted the law department structured in this particular way. And I do agree with you that we should have someone dedicated to us. However, in years past, that person would have always been the assistant city solicitor serving under the department head, the city solicitor. So I don't see how we are really, I don't see so much to be gained by saying we need to withhold the salary until we get this position in the format that we want, to make sure that we're going to be served by an independent entity, because that's never been the case. We do have someone dedicated to us, but they're not an independent entity. So I do think that we're kind of comparing or mixing apples and oranges here, and I don't see that the funding of the position related to the roles and responsibilities associated with the position. So I'll be voting against that cut.
Okay, Counselor Roman?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues. I was one who walked into this debate on this topic and was kind of like on the fence, like thinking, hey, how am I going to vote on this? I happen to stand in favor with this proposal. Hearing your logic on, if we just compare the numbers, the basic, you still want 4 positions to exist in the city solicitor's office. That's not what you're saying. You're just asking on the basic premise of it to fill the city solicitor position. That's it. And then this position could be restructured and cut. And if the mayor wants to come back with a supplement, and this is one of those appointed positions, and I understand the high attrition rate at that city solicitor level and under this administration, I understand that. But for me, as a counselor, I would like to see one dedicated person to us, and I think that that's great that Tara's under all these roles, but I would still like to see that. So I was on the fence, but I happen to agree with your basic premise and argument, and I support this decision to cut. So I'm going to be voting in favor.
Thank you. Counselor McGivern?
Prior to the position that Attorney Cunha holds as assigned to the city council, both between the charter and the language, and more important, the past precedent, it's the city solicitor who always came to the full city council meetings. And it was under, when Mike Sullivan was mayor, Karen Berturney was city solicitor, that we convinced Mayor Sullivan and the city council's approval that we would create a different system, which brought Attorney Kara to us. She has served that role incredibly well, but I said it then and I'll say it now. The most important position in this budget is the person who acts as a city solicitor. And I say act because the only reason she's not city solicitor is a residency question. And only the city solicitor can sign that legal opinion that saves both any department head, an elected official, or the city itself in terms of issuing the opinion on what actions can take place, how they should take place, or should not take place. I get everybody's argument here, but if this is a budgetary cut, I'm going to vote against it on a budgetary reason, even though I favor the hiring freeze, is because this, to me, is an open position, as Councilor McGee noted. It's an open body in a department that has saved a lot of outside monies over the years at the request of this body. And if we don't keep the qualified people in the positions in this department, then we're going to be spending more money on outside counsel. I agree with you, Mr. President. It is time, and we've talked about this, to have a discussion as far as our relationship with the law department, how are we going to handle it in the future. However, that won't be an easy debate, and it could take some time, because she's the only person who's ever held the position, but I cannot see a city council meeting without Carol Cunha sitting here. And believe me, the city solicitors before her, stayed with us till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, not because they liked us, but because they had to. They didn't go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Attorney Cunha does.
Yep, no, she does a very good job. That's obviously, that is not under dispute here. Counselor Tallman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I don't want to stay here till midnight tonight. I
Making the
understand.
motion at 11, so don't worry.
Okay, I understand your concerns, Mr. President, but I am against this cut. I think it's a vital position in this department. I think that Kara and the other attorneys in that office have saved the city some money, trying to do a lot more in-house, and it's important that we try to save money this way. I think it's a good investment to have this position, and I know over the years we've been spending a lot on outside counsel, and a lot more in the last probably 2 to 3, 4 years has been done by Kara and her department and her co-workers. So I am against this cut.
Okay. Counselor Roman?
So I just wanted to reiterate and thank my colleagues. I would like to publicly mention for the record, Kara and I spoke as well. It's not anything against Kara, her department. I don't think that is the context or the heart or the spirit of your motion of your cut, Mr. President. And where I hear Councilor McGivern say, and I think that's another great question about residency requirements in the city, and that's across the board. But Kara does an exceptional job. That's not the spirit of what this cut is, so I just wanted to separate that out as not to be seen as those who are in favor of this cut are somehow against Kara or the department, or the fact that we want 4 bodies in that office. There's a line item that hasn't been funded, which is the city solicitor. I applaud this conversation in the fact that it's just to say, have 4 positions in that office, just fund the city solicitor line, and let's restructure it. So thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. If everybody's had what they wanted to say, we'll have the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for reducing line 51103 by 49,000. A no vote is to deny it. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Graney?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee?
No.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
5 yeas, 10 nays.
Okay, by your vote, you have decided not to make that reduction.
Mr. President?
Anything else on page 8?
No, forget it.
Okay.
I have something
Anything?
to say after this.
Okay, if it's on, yeah, let's staying with the law department. Counselor McGee?
51275, salary adjustment,
Oh, yes, the oldie but goodie.
minus 6156.
Second.
The whole thing.
Thank you. Yep. Motion's been made and seconded to reduce line 51275 by $6,156, the salary adjustment. One, based on we've already discussed this numerous times, why. Any other discussion? Okay, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for making the reduction of 6156 to this line. A no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you've made the reduction of 6156. Anybody else on this page? Counselor Bresnahan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 57300, object code, dues and subscriptions, reduced by 2,500.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to reduce line 57300, dues and subscription, reduced by 2,500 from 6,500 to 4,000. Motion's been seconded. Under discussion, Counselor Bresnahan.
We survived at a lower rate last year. I mean, if they need dues and subscriptions, they can come back to us and ask us for more money, but at this point, I just don't see the need for it.
Okay. Anybody else? Counselor McGivern?
This is level funded, $6,500. Westlaw, a number of different things, and I'm probably not saying them all, or could not say them all correct, Mr. President, but are things that a law department, a state solicitor's department needs. It's not magazines. This is stuff that is used on a regular basis in terms of what they do in terms of how's an attorney say it, interpreting the law?
Yeah. She gave us a list.
Understanding the law.
Yeah. Yeah. Counselor Leahy?
I'm going to be voting against this. This is talking to Kara when Kara came in. These are fixed budget items that are subscription-based, things that she needs to make sure that the law office goes along smoothly.
Okay, Counselor Bacon?
I have a question, just because I can't remember. Is MuniCode in this?
No,
line?
that's in the clerk's office.
Okay.
We've already approved it by not cutting it. 5,000.
On the motion.
Done my page yet.
Huh?
You haven't done my.
Oh, we
page
haven't
yet?
done your page?
No.
Oh, okay. We're for that. We were the ones that lobbied for that. Oh, yes, yes.
On the motion.
Everybody else all set? Okay, motion on the floor is reduce dues and subscriptions by 2,500. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for the cut, a no vote is to not do the cut.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee?
No.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
2 yeas, 13 no nays.
By your vote, you've decided not to cut that line by
4 yeas.
2,500.
Yeah, it was more than two.
Just for the record.
4 yes, 11 no?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, line item 53010, professional services and special counsel. Since we've agreed to fund the 49,000 for the additional person, there should be some reduction in the amount of outside services per the conversation we just had here. Propose a cut of 25,000.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to reduce professional services special counsel 53010, reduced by $25,000. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to cut 25,000 from that line, a no vote is not to cut it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Pay me now or pay me later. No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
9 yeas, 6 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction of $25,000 to special counsel. Anything else on page 8? Hearing none, moving on to
Mr.
page
President?
9. Yes.
If the good city council would suspend their rules, our rules, and go out of order, so we have the school department here, I see Dr. Zreik back there.
Okay.
If we could go to page 27, school department.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules to move from page 9 up to page 27, school department.
Thank you.
Yeah. All in favor of that rule suspension? Aye. Opposed? The noes have it? Sounded like, there was only about 3 people that voted. So passed 2-1, so that's still 2/3. All right, let me just catch my notes up here. Okay. So, let me just give a little bit of a friendly additional comment, just more for the benefit of our newer members. The school department appropriation, we do not have line item authority over the school department. That formerly was a duty held by the school committee. That duty now under receivership is held by Mr. Zreik. We, however, do vote on the gross appropriation of the school department budget, currently proposed to us at $64,130,544, the identical number for last year. That is the current number on the table. Counselor Leahy.
Yeah, this is, if people are going to choose that, if they're going to choose this line item to cut, is it possible for Dr. Zreik to speak tonight?
No, I'm not in my, I mean, you could make a rule suspension to do that, but I would say we already had a very robust, multi-hour budget hearing on the school department, and Mr. Zreik had more than open mic, him and his entourage. With all due respect, I mean, they're great guys, and I'm personally very fond to him.
Just asking out of courtesy, I was asked to ask.
Yeah, but absolutely, I would be opposed to that, in my opinion.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
you did state that we don't have line item control.
correct.
In the past, the school committee had line item control. So if there were any motions to cut, it's just a dollar figure. It
Yeah,
cannot be connected
just off the
to-
gross top.
It cannot be connected to anything.
Correct. Yeah, he gets to say he gets to maneuver with whatever gross amount that he wants to do with, yep. Okay. First, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I have certainly two I know of. Counselor Bresnahan?
Make a motion to cut $240,000 from the gross school appropriation. In the guise of that is that we stop renting 57 Suffolk Street.
Second. Under discussion, Counselor Bresnahan?
Well, we're spending over $240,000, but there's enough money in there to give them a few months to, this is not about the receiver or the school, the teachers. It's about the city of Holyoke making some serious drastic changes to get some money back into our budget so we don't have brownouts and we have enough police and public safety out there. The city owns plenty of schools. It's gonna cost us a little money to move them, but we need to make this decision. This has been going on for over 20 years. We've been renting that building. And this is not a reflection of this administration or past administrations. Decisions have to be made, and I suggest that we make that decision now, and that we are the first city council to say, enough, we're not renting it. We're going to go back to our buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Under discussion, I'm just going to say, first of all, we had this identical conversation 12 months ago to the day last year on this, and the motion on the floor was to cut it. And it was defeated by a vote of 7 yes and 8 no. And the argument at the time is, oh, we need more time, we're going to study this, and we're going to do this and that, and we're going to develop a plan. And basically, I think all sides agree, very little to nothing has happened over the last 12 months. And so once again, the city council is asked to fund, because this does not count towards net school spending, so the city is paying for the rent for the central office. The full appropriation is $320,000, so approximately $30,000 a month is going to pay for the central office rent. And there just doesn't seem to be energy to really move on a decision. It's really quite simple in the analysis. Now, finally some movement got going about 6 years ago, and to the credit of the school committee, they started having conversations about it, but nothing ever got off the ground, right? So, first of all, find me anywhere a landlord down here in downtown Holyoke who's getting $30,000 a month for rent for 2 floors of a building. Okay, that's point number one. There's differing opinions as to the quality of the building that they're in. Some people say, it's okay. The other half say it's a total dump. So now it even makes me feel like we're not even getting good value for the place that's there. I hear nothing but complaints. The elevator this, the landlord doesn't do anything, yada, yada, yada. All these different things go on and on. So the point is, the city, if somebody else is picking up the tab, which is us, John Q. taxpayer, is picking up the tab for this, who the hell cares to ever get off the stick and do something about it, right? Because the bill will just get paid and we'll just keep kicking this can down the road. So 12 months keeps going by, and then another 12 months goes by, and another 12 months, and another 12 months. And this, just give us more time. That argument eventually, that kind of runs out of legs at some point. Tonight, hopefully 8 people will say that argument has run out of legs. We've got to make one of 2 decisions here, right? It's very quite simple. Everybody says it's crazy to rent on a permanent basis, right? I mean, since when do we rent public buildings? It's like renting Holyoke High School, right? Why don't we rent, Peck, or why don't we rent any of these? It's insane. Why don't we rent City Hall, right? It's crazy. Long term, you don't rent your house if you have the option to buy it. So the thing of it is very simple. People who are in high-level positions, basically it's the mayor. He's in control here, number one. Second person in heavy control is the receiver. These 2 people need to decide where the future of the school department is going to be, wherever they decide. But everybody says it's crazy to rent. Everybody's against that, but yet we keep paying it. So we have one option. We decided to stay and we're going to buy it. That's option A. Great. If that's the decision of the powers that be, then choose to do that. If option B is, we don't want to buy this building, we're going to move somewhere else, then great, then let's go do that option. That's option B. But you got to pick option A or you got to pick option B, because option C, which is Holyoke the city government just keeps paying the rent, $30,000 a month forever, that's not a good option. That's a really silly, stupid option. But yet, month after month, this keeps happening because we have a paralysis of common sense. And no one gets off the stick to fix it. So we just keep going. So we just keep going and going and going, and we keep renting because somebody cannot make a decision. So I want to help the decision process right now. And if the way to help the decision process is, we're going to cut the money, 9 months of it worth, that we have this month, plus, which is paid, plus 3 more months of transitional, and you've got to come up with a plan. If the plan is, well, we've got a really good plan and we need 3 more months worth, then come visit us after 3 months and maybe we'll give you some more money if you give us a real plan. But to think that we're going to fund this from now to the end of time, I swear to God, if we don't cut this, some city council 10 years from now is going to be continuing to have this identical conversation. Nothing will get done. Nothing will get done. Because 6 years ago, nothing has been done in the last 6 years. So what to think it won't happen 6 years from now? We need to have a final decision on this. This is the answer to force this decision. Seems like everybody only operates in crisis mode. They need to get off the stick and they need to bring in a plan to the city council to do something otherwise. Whether it's move to Lynch, move to the Central Supply, sell Central Supply, use that money to buy, whatever. You guys are the generals. I'm just, the city councilor guy. You guys are running the place. Whatever you want to do something, but this option, not a good option. So that's why I'm once again proposing this for the same reasons we said 12 months ago, for the same reasons we said 6 years ago. And actually, for that matter, for the same reason citizens have been saying in this city for 20 years that they've been doing this. Stupid, silly, crazy, you fill in the adjective you want to use, it keeps going on and on, it's never fixed. So we now have the opportunity to vote and to see if we're going to get some movement on this. And hopefully it will be adopted. Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. We've been calling, I've been referring to this building as the Taj Mahal. I know other councilors have been calling it the same for many years since I've been around. This building, I haven't been in it quite a while, but from my understanding from the people who work there, some of the people have told me that, it is a dump. I think there's only 57 employees that are in this building. My numbers could be incorrect. However, one of my biggest fears is kind of like doing a zone change where we do a zone change, then the owner can now do what they want with the building. It's kind of a scary thing. However, taking away $240,000 out of his budget, my big fear is somehow it's going to affect not so much the building, it's going to affect somehow the children. That's my big fear, but we do have to do something. We haven't done, or we've tried to do stuff, but nothing has happened. And $30,000 a month is a lot of money that's not going towards net school spending. So I'm going to vote for this tonight.
Anybody else? Thoughts? Councilor McGivern.
My budget, the line item $64,130,544 is what I see. I don't see anywhere the rent for the Suffolk Street Department, school office, department offices on Suffolk Street. I don't argue with what you're saying, Mr. President, Councilor Leahy, and a number of other councilors have said this over the years. Like most of us, I think like all of us, I supported the year that we tried to get it to move it into the Lawrence School after the schools had rearranged their needs in terms of moving around, and they moved the Lawrence School kids at that time up to Peck School. I also understand it's not an easy task. Whether it's the receiver's high priority, I'm not sure. A receiver, I hope, is, and no offense, Dr. Zreich, a temporary situation here in the city, and that our school committee gets line item control back, and that a move is made. At the budget hearings, I stated, something that I think would be a much more feasible plan, and at the same time, try to work it out where it makes sense, and it actually, in the long run, would save us money, but also would do the right thing for the students, for the kids of the city. And that's to utilize Metcalf School and build a new school that would be reimbursed up to 90% by the state. A new school that we need on a lot of levels, preschool slots, elementary slots, and just the fact that some of our schools, facilities are not in the best of shape. I understand the spirit of the motion, but I'm just, don't see it. It sends a message, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't, the school department's gonna be on Suffolk Street until they have someplace to move. If they're on Suffolk Street, they're gonna have to pay the rent on July 1, on August 1. They have to pay the rent on September 1. This cut is not gonna push them out. We need to take a more proactive approach and a solution as to not push them out, not just pushing them out, but finding the location for where they have to go. The retrofit for Lawrence School was originally estimated at, and we were told at one time that it wasn't gonna cost hardly anything, but then we realized it was gonna be closer to 1.2 million to retrofit and move all the systems that the school department, not the bodies, but the systems, in terms of the support between the computer, the hardware, the software, the wiring, and so forth. It makes sense to do it on a cost savings, but to make this cut tonight just takes money out of a budget. And I think most of us know the amount of layoffs that went off, have been sent out over the last 2 weeks in the school budget. We're just taking money away from the kids. We're not doing anything as far as Suffolk Street goes, other than trying to send a message, which we've sent over the years.
Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'm sure that we all agree and recognize that the area that we would like to see cut is strictly advisory and is at the total discretion of the receiver. I think it is important that when we're asking the citizens time and time again to pay more and more and more, that we're not spending their money on things like rent in a building that most of us wouldn't want to buy. When we have been advised by the receiver in the budget hearings that there is space available in the city. He hasn't had an opportunity to fully evaluate it, but he has let us know he's reduced the footprint of administration. Their square footage needed is much less, and we're in the wireless age. We're not talking about moving computers the size of a building here. We're talking about wireless technology. And I think it is very important that when we keep going back to the citizens for more tax money, that we start getting rid of things that are a waste of their money. And they know this is a waste of their money. This isn't helping the kids. And to do away with that rent expense is helping the kids, because then the money is available to spend on something else, i.e. the kids. And so I wholeheartedly support this cut. I realize it is symbolic in nature. I think we've got people that want to move things around. I think they want to continue to streamline, and I think we encourage it by voting for this. Thank you.
Counselor McGee.
Yeah, real quick, the doctor came to the Ward 7 meeting and actually gave an hour-long presentation as to what he's looking to do, how to do it, and openly said to everyone there, you want me to move? Move me. Put me somewhere. He will go. So he's open, he's here to do it. The issue is, where do you go, how do you do it? He's asking for suggestions. We had a suggestion prior to him getting here, which was give Lynch School back to the schools. They wanted it.
Right.
And then they could do something with it. So we could have, a random thought and idea was to move Metcalf over to Lynch, put Lynch back on as being a school again. Metcalf becomes the new home office, or where they have the storage, either place. He doesn't care. He just said, give me a spot, because I agree, I have less staff now, and I have more square footage than I absolutely need over there. I don't need this space. So the answer is, he's looking for the help. Are we providing it by cutting or doing something? I don't have that answer. I just know you have a big parcel that's called the school, Lynch School. We're talking about bonding and everything else. We're talking about our students. Give the school back to them. Bond, fix it up. Allow us, even if the department has to go there, or Metcalf moves over, or whoever, or Lawrence School, I don't care. But the man wants to move. Is this the right way of doing it? I don't have that answer. Maybe it's the way to push them, but let's be fair and honest. He's telling us, I'll do whatever you want me to do to help the school system, and he understands that moving is one of those things. So I just want to be right out and open as to where he stands on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Graney.
Yeah, in response to, many suggestions that were made tonight, namely the building of a new school, that's miles and miles away in Boston. The bonding issues and all the issues that are going to take place to build a new school. And to build a new school in a city that is now under receivership by the state is really not feasible at this time. However, the symbolic cut of the $240,000 to move these offices out of that Suffolk Street so that we don't have only rent slips to pay for it. We do own buildings. We have buildings that are available in the city, and the Lynch School is one of them. And it could also serve a very different purpose. It could serve classroom purposes. It could serve as the area to move the maintenance department in there, where we could store all our goods and services at the Lynch School simply by building a building dock there for $5,000. It has an inner courtyard. It has a gymnasium that's still in use by our youth. And we've had people who are active in youth activities that have come before this council and said, look, our kids are still using that gymnasium at night. It's a very viable place to move these school department offices. It will cost some money to refit it, but I think it's a good move for the city of Holyoke, a good move for the citizens. The building was built in 1953. It's hardly an old building in comparison to some of the other buildings that we have. It's still in fairly good shape. We rehab that building one time, and with regular maintenance, you're not going to be faced with these astronomical rent bills for years and years and years and years to come. It makes sense to do something like this, save the taxpayers' money over the long haul, but I'm going to vote for this cut, not because I want to cut the kids. Obviously, I spent the majority of my adult life in education. I know the value of education, but we need to do something to move that department out of Suffolk Street. It's not feasible anymore. It is not good for the taxpayers. It's not good for the city. Although it is handicapped accessible, it really isn't. You have 2 handicap spots in front of the place, and you have a parking lot across the place. It's not a good fit for the city of Holyoke. We have property that's available for the city of Holyoke that we could have moved 6 years ago. It's now cost us over $1.8 million in rent slips to stay at Suffolk Street. It's absurd. We're not going to get a new school building in the very near future. Let's do something constructive here and move the school department offices out. At least I'm going to support this cut, not because I want to hurt the kids. Obviously, that's the first thing from my mind, but we need to move that building out. It's long overdue, and the taxpayers and the people have been talking about it for years. We need to do it. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments? Okay. Clerk will call, Counselor Sullivan?
Sorry about that. To put it a little bit in perspective for everybody, the cut that's being proposed in the overall budget is 0.00375% of the budget. It's a very minuscule amount. I know we're all in favor of taking good care of the kids. I think this sends the right message that we've got to start forcing things to happen. This will just drag on forever.
Okay, Madam Clerk. Yes vote is in favor of the $240,000 reduction. A no vote is to deny it. The clerk will call the roll, please.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi? Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern? Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
11 yeas, 4 nays.
By your vote, you've reduced the line item by $240,000. Okay, staying, anything else on page 27? Okay. I have one other proposal that I'd like to talk about and propose, which is a $37,500 reduction to Halo rent, which is 9 months of Halo rent over on Maple Street.
Second.
Second, okay. Just a brief discussion. For those that aren't aware, This is an adult literacy program. For reasons unknown to me, we pay, the city, again, non-net school spending, we pay the rent for it to be $4,000 a month to be located over at Maple Street. I'm not so sure why they can't operate to help adults that want to get either their GEDs or these different types of things. Operate this, I mean, they could set up tables at the library, they could have it up in the cafeteria upstairs. We got a million schools, but we're paying $4,000 a month to pay the rent over on Maple Street. This is the mini version of the central office. I mean, admittedly, much minier version, but the point is still $4,000 a month, and we're paying that because we don't want to utilize a public building to provide those services. I think there's plenty here. The total cost is $50,000 a year. I'm requesting that we give them the first 3 months to develop a plan, plus obviously the current month, so they got 4 months. If for some reason they cannot come up with that at that time, then we should hear something from them over the next 3 months for them to come in with a plan. But I am proposing this $37,500 reduction for the purposes of transitioning the Halo rent either to get a grant if they really want to stay in the same spot, or do something, or put it into a school, or use another municipal building, or use the library community room to teach adult literacy classes, or Lord knows what they're doing with it. But these are things, this is like the Creative Arts Center rent. I mean, wonderful, God bless it. We just can't afford to underwrite all these things anymore. And it's the same thing with this. And so we need to develop a transition plan for this Halo rent that the city just cannot afford to be paying $4,000 a month anymore on. Yes, Councilor.
If I may, Mr. President, if I'm not mistaken, way back when I was here, 2011, 2010, the president of Holyoke Community College came to the council and we allocated the $50,000. So I'm not sure if there's an agreement or a contract for rent for this facility, and I just want to see if you have any other information before I decide which way I'm going to go with this. Do you have any other information?
I do. I'm sure there is probably some sort of lease agreement. Unfortunately, I would assume they have its rent, right? I would assume there's a lease agreement. I don't know if it's month to month or not, or if it's year by year. I don't know. Does Mr. Soto know? Do you know offhand? He doesn't know. I can honestly say the other one is month to month, by the way, in case there was any questions about 57 7th Street. That one's an old one.
But you know what I mean is, I will hate to screw the college if I mean.
Well, it's not them. We don't pay it to them.
Well, he was the one here. I remember that he was Messner and
Yeah, remember that.
so
It's
I
a
don't-
program that they help subsidize.
Yes.
They're providing some teachers and things there. My point is that should be conducted in a public building, not there.
I agree.
Oh, I mean, that's the issue. Now, I do put in three months worth of rent. I mean, I would assume if there is some sort of contractual, they need additional, they could come back. If they need more time, we could put 6 months worth if they think 3 months isn't enough. But the point is, we've got to cut the umbilical cord on that one too. I mean, this is, to me, we just can't afford these $4,000 a month rent on something that could be done in a public building. Yeah, these are niceties.
Yeah, and I
Councilor Lee.
agree, and Counselor Lopez's, I remember that meeting and when I was such a long time ago, but I remember agreeing for it, but have we ever got demographics of how many people they've helped? Or, I mean, until now, it's almost like a forgotten thing.
They used to pay it, by the way. It was only transitioned to the city a couple of years ago. Because Dr. Carballo said, you know what, this ain't coming out of my budget anymore, and he kicked it over to the city.
Yeah, because we certainly need to help these people.
Oh, yeah, we wanna
However,
help
we have so
everybody.
many different buildings to do it in. So I second your motion.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other thoughts, discussion? Councilor McGivern?
I hear the argument, and I understand the argument. I'm not too sure if there is a lease or a contract, but it is about a semi-public building. Still good points made by the president, but again, symbolic. The last symbolic vote is the equivalent of about 3 teachers. You know, between this and whatever we do to the school department budget, we may be saying one thing, but we're probably just laying off more teachers. And if you're going to lay off teachers, you're not about the kids.
Well, again, that's up to the receiver. He can vote to move the school department, or he can vote to move Halo, or he can go lay off teachers. You're right, it's his discretion. But that ain't gonna be us laying off teachers. That's him laying off teachers, if he chooses to do that. He can make a move on fixing the rent problems like these. This is what we're telling him he should cut. He doesn't have to agree with us, that's true, you know. But if he makes it a choose in his discretion to cut something other than the rent, well, then that's on him. But there's really 2 people in the whole city that can decide at this point where the future of these offices go. Mayor Alex Morse and Receiver Stevens Reich. City Council, you have basically no plan or say or anything on these things ultimately. Until they decide to move somewhere else, if they want to buy something, then they do need your permission. But if they go to move over to another location or whatever, that's actually, you're just getting the proposal after they've agreed to it. We can't force them out of anything other than what we're doing right here with is just starting to slowly cut off the money to it. It worked over at the Creative Arts Center, right? We don't see that anymore in the budget. You know, we slowly weaned it down. This is what we're trying to say here. We got to slowly start weaning these things down, these entanglements, these amounts, so. Oh, Councilor Sullivan, yeah.
Thank you. Also, to equate any cut in the school budget as being directly related to a layoff of teachers, I think is not the right way to be looking at this. Looking at the budget, there are plenty of other places also that we're not even addressing here tonight. The transportation costs are just out of sight, and there's plenty of other places in the budget should the receiver decide not to stay where they are or not to start making these moves or to continue paying these rents, that it doesn't necessarily equate to a cut in the educational services itself.
Well, to your point, we have a memo here from Dr. Reich. We asked at the budget hearing, what's the cost, the annual cost of heating the central supply office? Mind you, at the hearing, he said, a building I don't want and I don't need. $70,000 to heat it a year. So don't cut 3 teachers. How about cut the heat at the central supply or turn the thermostat down for 3 months over at Central Supply, a building that's not needed. So why, you know, I love these, let's go right to the common denominator, cut teachers. Well, how about turn the thermostat down at a building we don't even need or is not even wanted by the people running the school department? How about that? You know, it's like the proverbial, if you cut the Defense Department, you're taking the Marine Corps' salary away, or you're cutting the $200 toilet seat. You know, this is the type of thing that goes on when you get in these budgets of so many millions of dollars. And so I think people can transparently see what's going on here. So, any other thoughts? Yes, Councilor Valentin.
Just because of the relationship between Halo, sorry, it's been a long night already, Halo and HCC and the Picnelli Center, I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Makes perfect sense. Yep. Okay, so Councilor Valentin will be abstaining from this vote due to the fact that she works at HCC and HCC is involved in this program. Okay. All right, any other thoughts? Okay. Clerk, I'm sorry, Councilor LeBron.
I just want to make a comment. I'm sitting here grinding my teeth. It's so hard for me to accept and hear that the education aspect that the city is facing with the receivership, and that we had to already cut the situation of the building, that I know it's been a burden on our shoulders for some time. But it's a message that we've had 3 receiverships, if we think about it, within the last, 6 years, probably 3 already in our hands, that a person who's come in here trying to turn this around, it's going to be another, burden for him to turn things that he's doing very well. I'm very concerned as I see parents, I see our youth coming through my doors on a daily basis, and instilling in them the motivation, the hopes that our system will turn around and that we'll receive it, we'll have it in our hands again. And that the message tonight, as soon as it's out there with the media and whatnot, that the administration that needs to hold the torch for this community is going to be considered, do what you got to do. And my concern is that he may have to start cutting other places that I'm concerned about more teachers being laid off, less resources available for the students to get in order to be better educated. That I don't know what else would touch. Would it touch on our textbooks? Would it touch on the equipment that is needed today to be up to date, to be the workforce of tomorrow with technology that we need in the schools and they're not there? A little bit of everything. I mean, so just wanted to share my thoughts. I don't talk much, but when it comes to the children, I have to speak on that. Thank you.
I know we want to move on, but I respect Councilor Lebron Martinez, I always do. And I just want to say for myself that, this was a very difficult decision in terms of kind of where to go with this. But I think it's important to see that, first of all, we have no control over what the media says. We already know that. And of course, this is going to be presented as the city council cut $240,000 from the school department. How dare they? We're in the middle of a receivership. Teachers are going to get laid off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's okay. We're elected officials. We chose to be in this position of having to clarify for people what the thought process has been behind this. And so tonight, 11 of us made this decision. And those who chose not to, I fully respect. But I think that we already know that there's always going to be tons of misinformation out there. I, for one, I'm ready to explain to folks where I'm coming from with this. And again, I go back, rewind in the movie of last year, and this is exactly what we talked about. And the offices are still there. And I have people saying to me, my constituents saying, why are we still paying for 57 Suffolk Street? We need to figure something else out. So this is it's one of those very difficult decisions. Clearly, Dr. Streich, I think, was quite upset. He stormed out of the chambers once the vote was in, and that's his decision. But I think that, we're in these positions to make difficult decisions. We're still on page 9. And there will be many other difficult decisions that we will be making tonight pertaining to police, to fire, to all these very sensitive topics that every year we have to go over when these budget processes are happening. So I think it's important that we also make it a point to educate the public about why we come to the decisions we come to, and we're all responsible for our own individual decisions. Thank you.
And just to augment what Councilor Valentin just said, we've been very transparent about what we're doing, what our reasons are, and I couldn't agree more. So, thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilor Bresnahan.
And just in that same vein of thought, what's a better message, that we tear down a school and put up a fast food restaurant? What are we telling the kids and the parents then?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we've had the discussion on the $37,500 for the 9 months of Halo rent. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the reduction. A no vote is to not make the reduction.
Bacon?
Yes.
Bartley? She abstained.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
8 yeas, 6 nays, and 1 abstain.
Okay, by your vote, you've approved the reduction. Anything else for page 27, School Department? Hearing none, going back to page 9, which was the Personnel Office. So that's it for the schools. So anybody for the schools, you're all set. We're done with page 27. Office of Personnel, anything on this page? Hearing none, moving on to page 10. Computer System Administration. Anything for this? I'd like to propose a cut if nobody has anything on this one. I'd like to, on the education and training budget, a reduction of $10,000 to line 53190, and I'll explain why.
Second.
Yep. Motion has been made and seconded to reduce line 53190 by 10,000. This was funded at $15,000 last year. Jim Lavelle, who always does a good job, he came in at the hearing and he just said, this is a plug. Basically, my opinion is this should be level funded to what it was last year. If there's a need for more, that if some actual comes up more, then instead of just funding it for now and as a plug, I think we should put the 15 that was there last time and keep it at 15 for the moment until there's a reason otherwise.
Second.
Yep. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $10,000 reduction to education and training. A no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've approved the reduction of $10,000 to that line in the computer system administration. Anything else for 10?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Counselor Sullivan?
Line item 53010, the consulting services. I'd propose a $5,000 cut there to keep it level. They only expended $180,000 in 2015.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to reduce this line item from 185,000 by 5,000 to 180,000. And did you want to say anything further, or you're just level funding is what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I saw Councilor McGivern's hand up. Councilor McGivern?
Our final 2016 budget was 185,000, so I think the mayor put this at level funding, even though the Gas and Electric have argued that they spent more or do more in terms of the services they provide to the city, which is a more than fair contract. But I think the 185 is the level funded number.
Well, if, I don't want to get into a big argument about what level funding is, what's budgeted and what's spent. I feel what's spent and matching that is level funding, not trying to match budget numbers that weren't met or probably should be reduced anyways.
Okay. Councilor McGivern?
The 185 is going to be spent. The 180 was 2015. When you look at the budget, I realize we don't have everything in front of us. If we had the printout from the auditor, we know, even though it's still only the middle of June, how close that 185 is being spent. But the level funding is 185.
On the motion.
Okay. All right, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $5,000 reduction to this line. A no vote is to deny. And just to refresh people's memory, this is computer consulting services, object code 53010. A reduction of 5,000 is proposed.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
No.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
Well, just let the ratepayers take
11
it up.
yeas, 4 nays.
They pick everything up, Joe. You know how this
I know.
works.
Pass it on to the ratepayers.
All right. Anything else on page 10? Hearing none. Page 11, Office of the Administrative Assistant to the City Council. Anything here? Seeing none. Moving on to page 12, City Clerk. Anything on 12? Seeing none. Moving to 13, which is just revenue lines, so there's nothing to cut on 13. Item 14, Office of the Registrar of Voters. Anything here? Hearing none. Moving on to 15, Conservation Commission. Anything here? Okay, moving on to page 16, Planning and Economic Development, page 16.
Mr. President?
Yes, Counselor Bacon?
Object code 51101, to reduce it by $40,000. And the purpose of this proposed reduction is so that HEDIC will continue to fund it. The way that it was shared with us in the budget hearing is that they're intending to reduce their dependence on HEDIC by $40,000. And when we got into a discussion on it, actually, the director said they were putting it forth as a proposal and an idea to reduce this burden, but those of us at the hearing that night let him know that we didn't really think it was a good year to start doing that and reducing subsidies that have been depended upon for a number of years. So that is the rationale behind this proposed cut.
I'll second that, and just add to commentary was, obviously, I'm very fond of Marcos, and normally there would not be a reduction ever out of my mouth for that line, but when we had the budget hearing, I just want people to understand what's going on here in this department. We receive $119,567 from the HEDIC and have for many, many years for this department to subsidize. Now, the reason the pays are going up in the budget to this is I asked that these be fully funded to show what the true cost of all these. So the mayor agreed with that, and he did that, and I appreciate that. The problem is they're reducing, the mayor made a decision that he, over a period of 3 years, is going to phase out all HEDIC revenue to the city. Now, we can't afford that. I don't know why they're going about this policy that we're currently receiving the $120,000. For this year, they're reducing it by $40,000 to $80,000. And then next year, they're going to reduce it to $40,000. And then the year after that, they're going to reduce it to $0. So the city's going to lose $120,000 in revenue over the next 3 years. And that is something we cannot afford to give up, the $120,000. Now, I'm told by Marcos that they're going to be having a meeting in August to discuss all of this. And I said, well, I don't want to vote to agree to have the revenue be $120,000. We need this to balance out so it's revenue neutral. For example, if you look at the budgeted amount for the last year should be $295. Well, if you add $120 to that, it should tie out with the budget, but it doesn't. If you take out $80,000 from this, it actually increased their budget by about $45,000. There's about a $5,000 increase in overall expenses, but the bigger point is the net sum of these should be a difference of $120, and instead we're out $40,000 because if you look on page 17, it reports other department revenue, line 53,700. It says 50,000 in here. That actually should say 80,000. So in fairness, that's a budget error, I was told by the department head. But that should say 119,567, like we've been getting. So I said, well, to Marcos, well, he goes, it's not 100%, but this is what we wanted to do. We feel this is, we want to help HEDIC out, and, but I says, but that costs the city, $120,000. I mean, we can't afford to do that. So I said, where can I cut to, effectuate this, right? I mean, I don't want to be in favor of this. Well, I guess if you got to cut one, cut mine. So, okay, I mean, if that's the deal, and they're going to take a vote if the board votes to restore the money, then obviously we vote to restore the $40,000. Otherwise, the subsidy is going to have to come from them to keep the position of director full-time. I just don't feel the city can absorb the $40,000 revenue hit. I disagree with that policy, and for those that are following it, at the budget hearing, that was the conversation that we had. And so, therefore, I just wanted all cards on the table, be totally transparent. This is what's going on. They're reducing city revenue by $40,000, and this is our way of expressing that we want full funding for the money. And if they give us full funding, then we absolutely should put the $40,000 back to the director position, and fully fund it at 68,000. If they don't, then they're gonna have, either we're gonna have a part-time director, or they're gonna have to subsidize it by 40,000. It used to be subsidized by 17,000, you see, right? Because the budget at 51, it's 68 now, but they're taking the subsidy away. So I think we just need to be aware of what's going on here. That's the mechanics of it. Any other thoughts or discussion? Okay. Councilor McGivern.
Just real quick, on the history of the HEDIC subsidy. HEDIC always paid for, out of this department, for services that were rendered to HEDIC. And they did so, rightfully so, you know, to say HEDIC paid its own way. HEDIC was created in the late 70s. There were some very profitable projects that took place throughout the 80s that gave HEDIC monies in addition to what was originally appropriated for the body. Those monies, part of those monies were put into a revolving fund, which is a loan at a very low interest rate that is eligible for businesses that are both starting up and or trying to make or expand or trying to make ends meet for different reasons under very strict guidelines. HEDIC also has acquired assets over the years, and certainly, you know, has the money to pay for what they need in terms of services from this department, and have done so. It was in the mid to late 90s when the city was facing a fiscal crisis, and similar to what, you know, the president pointed out, you know, the bad times that we're having now, that HEDIC went above and beyond what they used. And I call it an over-subsidy of the department itself. We could talk about numbers forever, but I don't think that's the point here. But I've said for years is the city should get back towards what is its true commitment or its true need to pay for the people who work in this department, which is a moneymaker for the city, not just HEDIC, but this department makes money for the city. And I think this is the first mayor that has even thought about doing this in the last 15, 18 years. I mean, and I do so because I think the idea is the more money HEDIC has to reinvest, whether it's the revolving loans or projects that could take place, things that HEDIC does at the city's request, not at their request, I think it makes sense that, you know, that's paid attention to. That aside, I understand the cut here, but Mr. President, I'm not too sure if I understand the dollar figures. I don't think HEDIC ever put $40,000 towards the director's salary. And, you know, I think, and I don't have my HEDIC budget in front of me, but I know that would have been at one time well over half of the director's salary. And I just don't understand where the $40,000 figure came from.
Sure, yeah. It was 17,000 was the director's portion of the 40,000, but as you know, all the personnel lines, day one after we pass this budget, they can move those around anywhere they want, personnel to personnel, the director can. So instead of us going 17 from this line and 12 from this line and 6 from that line, we're just proposing to take the 40 out of one of the lines. And I asked Marcos what, and he just, well, take it from mine. So that was why we did it that way. He therefore can transfer them around in between his own. But that's the genesis of the 40. It's just the 40,000 is the issue, and that was the amount in revenue reduction according to page 17 budget.
I understand.
Okay.
But it does create a little bit of a little housekeeping dilemma. Is we have an ordinance that, you know, dictates a salary for the position, and we would not be funding the full 12-month salary by ordinance.
Well, we are. It's just that the subsidy, they get to set the subsidy to whatever they want. I mean, it's based by a policy of the HEDIC board. So what our point is, in August, they're gonna have this meeting to decide if they're gonna go with the proposal, which has been supported by the administration, which is to reduce the subsidy from 120 a year to 80. Marco said the board may vote not to do that. They may say, let's keep full funding. And I'm trying to actively encourage to say, keep city full funding by doing this. Otherwise, they gotta come up with 40 grand to the personnel lines. So that's the point. But he can transfer these around if he wishes, however he wants. The point's 40, and maybe they say go pound sand, you know? Heidick, you're on that board. You get one of the 5 votes or 6 votes that are there. And, you know, hopefully you'll vote along with the group to keep our full funding. But we'll see how that all shakes out. You'll use your powers of persuasion.
We're still looking at a 12-month budget, and
12-month,
if
that's
the
right.
auditor wakes up on, whoever the auditor is, on July 1st, you know, they technically will not be able to pay the director.
Right.
Because there's not enough money in this line item to pay the salary. It's a 12-month budget.
Yep.
We've talked about this in the past. It doesn't cover the ordinance.
Well,
I'm not saying that's what will happen.
Right.
But that's what is supposed to happen.
Yeah, well, we know, yeah. Well, under that logic, the job was only funded 75% under that theory, because we used to budget.
The salary was only 75% because he'd have picked up the slack.
Right.
Okay, same thing we did with, for years, the superintendent of DPW and the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah. So
Same-
if Heidick doesn't, he's either got to reshuffle the deck chairs to change the proportions, but he's got to come up with 40 grand, or they got to have some of these positions are going to go to, you know, 30 hours versus 40 hours. Or he's got to come back to us for supplemental funding, or they got to vote to give us the full money. But to do nothing basically means we already know how that's going to turn out. They're going to vote to cut the subsidy to 80 grand.
So the city council, by voting yes, is asking Heidick to go above and beyond what they need for services and to use monies that could be used in economic development to pay the salaries. That's what we're saying,
All I'm saying is keep our 120, and however anybody
which
wants
is
to.
above and beyond what Heidick needs to,
right.
in terms of services.
Okay, Counselor Bacon?
I would just respectfully suggest that we're having the conversation in the wrong order, that if there's gonna be a change in the subsidy, that should be conducted in the public in a transparent way before it's buried in a budget with a shift in revenues.
I made that point at the budget hearing. We should have a whole conversation. If we're gonna change the relationship
Yes, and
with
we had
Heidick, that we should have a whole hearing on that.
Yes, and we had a good 20-minute discussion on that in the budget hearing.
Yes.
And our planning director reassured us that it was simply an idea and it was included in the budget to be transparent. And we gave him the same feedback, that we needed to be having the discussion before we were addressing the budget.
Any final thoughts before we vote, Joe?
Well, I don't get, I mean, the discussion that we're talking about has always been transparent, and Heidick's votes have always taken place after the city council vote on the mayor's budget. And it's always been an open and never a hidden type thing. The fact that Heidick pays for services they need is a gimme. They should, okay? They're set up, and nobody should be set up as such as a Heidick group, you know, that doesn't pay their own way. The fact that they pay above and beyond is something that I think they've done so and probably will continue to do, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost, you know, of the economic development projects that Heidick is assigned by this body. And this body and the mayors, and more so the mayors, have assigned some things to Heidick that don't make sense. One, the building on Main Street that the school department has. Two, buying the building here on Suffolk Street. Suffolk Street used to formerly be known as Gleason's Townhouse. We could go on forever, but I want the clear understanding, because I'll bring the message back, that if we do cut 40,000, although I disagree with the way we're cutting it, you know, the message is we want Heidick to do above and beyond what they have to do.
And if they would be kind enough to do that, we'll be happily put the 40 grand back.
Send a message.
Thank you, sir. We
No
appreciate it.
guarantees.
I understand. We're not selling refrigerators here. We
But
understand.
I still think the way we're doing it by line item could pose a problem.
Counselor Greenie?
Mr. President, it's 10 o'clock and we're only on
Yeah.
page 16. Could we
Yeah,
move on,
yeah,
please?
yeah. Madam Clerk, I think we've exhausted this argument. Madam Clerk, a yes vote is in favor of the $40,000 reduction, a no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley? No. Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes?
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
8 yeas, 7 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Anything else on planning and economic development? We had a couple that the director gave us at the budget hearing that I'd like to propose, just to kind of move things along.
I
One
just
wa-
got a text and he's reneging that.
He's too nice to do that.
I'm kidding.
License Commission, Planning and Economic Development, line 51201 for License Commission salary, a reduction of $200. It was supposed to be $2,800. It was accidentally put at $3,000.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for reducing it by $200, this line, to go from $3,000 to $2,800. A no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
Oh, yeah, we have to take care of that, yep. Thank you. By your vote, you've adopted that reduction. A surety bond, line 57,400. Department head said that we can reduce this by $600. He said that that surety bond was not needed.
Second.
So, to reduce 57,400, that's the last line on the page. Reduce from 600 to 0. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $600 cut, a no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've made that reduction. The other one is, we have a salary adjustment study one, just like the other ones, line 51,275, reduced by $1,353.
Second.
Same issue with this one. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote's in favor of the cut, a no vote is to not cut $1,353.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you have approved that reduction. Anybody else have anything for line, page 16? I had two more, but they come under the genre of level funding. One is advertising, line 53,430, to reduce that line by $3,550, which is to do level funding. He increased it from 1,700 to 5,250.
Mr. President, if
Yeah.
I can just add a point of information on that.
Okay. Was there a
He-
justification for that?
He did make it known to us that they have the unique situation of marketing the Geriatric Authority property, which is gonna be a bigger challenge,
Okay,
given the scope of it.
okay.
And so he
He
was
needed that, you thought?
looking to that project. That was what he put forth to us in the budget hearing.
I'm happy to withdraw if we really think it's needed, you know, okay. I don't know, anybody else have an opinion? Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, I've been after several departments also about doing better jobs at advertising. You know, we just had the train station come back with zero offer at all. The same deal. I think the bang for the buck by increasing the advertising could actually be tremendous. We've got to get it out there
Okay.
in some better venues.
I'm sold. Withdraw that reduction. The other one was other contracted services. I noticed that this went up by, again, what I don't care for, and I would just say it'll be the next assessor's headache, is when we call budgeted, budgeted means what did the city council pass last year? Friendly thing, right? What they're doing is they're adding in transfers, you know, whether it's interdepartmental or otherwise, to some of these lines and calling it quote-unquote budgeted. But the city council actually approved $16,000 to other contracted services in the FY16 budget. That's what the city council voted. We funded that at 16 grand. This year, the initial proposal is to go to 30. I was gonna make a motion to cut it back to 16 again, to see if there's a reason why we need to
I'll second.
start the year more than that, and that's line 53010. So that motion's been made and seconded. That's the logic behind the reduction. Yeah, Councilor Valentin?
I'm going to be voting against that reduction because I'm just looking at the cost, you know, if we're looking at what the funding has been like before. And I think it's pretty obvious that we all here have spoken at many times about the great job that this office does, the number of projects that continue to be added to the workload, and, you know, honestly, the miracles that Marcos does with the staffing he has, really, in my opinion. So I'm going to be voting against it because I do think that those resources are needed for them to continue to do the job the way they're doing it, and even in a better way as well. Thanks.
Councilor Tomlin?
I agree with my colleague. I think he's doing a tremendous job in that department. I think this money is needed to market the projects that are going on in the city and to continue to bring revenue and new resources, new tax dollars into the community.
I guess my only thinking on it was, if these are contracted services, these are people that he's hiring as consultants, not employees by definition, because it's an expense line. It would seem like we would want to have them coming in and discussing, like, why am I hiring outside consultants? Like, what type of services are being done? That might be a good conversation to have, almost like outside counsel and things of that nature. I think that's why we funded it at 16 last year, as opposed to, and make them come back. One school of thought. I don't know if there's necessarily a correct answer either way. It's two ways of looking at it. But it's all meritorious, though. I mean, you make a good point, Councilman.
Can I
Yeah,
answer that a
absolutely.
little bit?
Sure.
I actually I had asked Marcos, you know, kind of where this was coming from in terms of the amount, and what are some of the examples, just for my own kind of you know, process. And I made some notes when I asked him about it. He gave me some examples. He said things like, you know, for example, we're asking, as a council, we're asking questions like, what's the value of the geriatric authority building? What are the physical and system conditions at 57 Suffolk? You know, is Valley Arena Park contaminated? Like, basically, if there's a question on valuation of a property, technical planning or conceptual design, these are things that are beyond the scope of the staff and the personnel that's within the department. And obviously, as we know, all of these things cost money. So I think that the combination of the increase in lining up of pipeline of projects and the department's ability to be able to line up projects and funding and the pieces that come from there are what we're seeing here. So that's just to give a little perspective of what my conversation was with him based on my request for more information on kind of where this was coming from, just so that we don't confuse it with personnel stuff, which is, you know, whatever the folks are doing in the office. This is beyond the scope.
Right. So the question is sort of, what do we start them off at, 16 or 30 or some other number? Okay, all right. Councilor Lisi?
I'm just really briefly going to make a point that when it comes to economic development, I really like to see that office be able to make decisions and, you know, wield its authority as it sees fit. And so I'm happy to start them off at the fully funded amount.
Okay. Good. All right, I think we've nailed it, so let's have a vote. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $14,000 reduction. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Sullivan, did you want to make a point?
Just as far as, to your point, these are outside contracted services.
Yep.
We've added a planner and development specialists, and, you know, hopefully that's going to reduce that amount of, that we've hired the right people, and they know what is going on with these different projects, and we won't have to use as much outside services, since we've invested in the personnel in the department.
Right.
Right.
Yep. And like, we started him at 16, he's asking to start him at 30, so we're about to find out what we want for a starting point in about 2 seconds. So, here we go. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for a $14,000 reduction, a no vote is to deny the reduction.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? Yes. LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
No.
10 yeas, 5 nays.
Okay, by your vote, you've made the reduction of 14,000. Anything else in economic development? Hearing none, moving to page 17. Anything on page 17? Hearing none, moving to page 18, Police Department. Anything here from anyone? I had one line item, which is at repair and maintenance of office equipment. I noticed that versus what we funded it in 16, it was jumped up $3,000. Not a lot when you consider the total of this budget, but that would be
President,
line
object
item.
code, please.
Yes,
Object code.
I apologize. 52400. I'm proposing a $3,000 reduction to line 52400, repair and maintenance office equipment. It's the very last line on the page. In last year's budget, we funded it at 11. That was the line for the last 2 years. Budgeted does not reflect the budgeted passed by the council last year. It was 11, not 12.
Second.
Okay, that motion's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to reduce this line by $3,000, a no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Anything else on page 18? Counselor Sullivan?
Yes, item 51920, Quinn bill.
51920, Quinn Bell,
I would request a decrease of 50,000.
minus 50,000.
The
Okay, is there
my reasoning behind this is, I think we've got to start, I don't want to cut the complete, we're subsidizing half the Quinn bill, as I understand it, is money that the state reneged on their deal. I'm not suggesting that the city cut its share, its agreed upon share of the Quinn bill. I'm not saying that we cut it off completely, but it's time to start weaning back the commitment that the state reneged on, that the taxpayers of the city of Holyoke have had to pick up. And over the next several years, that we start to do away with that portion of the Quinn bill that we weren't originally obligated to. So such a cutback would allow us to pick up 80% of the state tab this year and maybe less next year and start getting away from picking up what the Commonwealth reneged on.
Counselor Leahy?
Since my brother Patrick went on to get his master's of criminal justice from Westwood State, I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Sounds good. Counselor Leahy abstaining from any discussion or debate on this vote or voting. Counselor Lisi?
Thank you. I think that the argument that Councilor Sullivan made just now is an argument that's been made in this chambers for several years now, and I think it's important to note that we're not, taking away the portion that we're responsible for. We're trying to do some cost savings in the area that we're going above and beyond our responsibility and taking on the state's portion that they have defaulted on.
Right. I'll just say, obviously, I'm one of the guys who was beating the heaviest on the drum in favor of this cut, of 50% actually. But I met with the unions and the leadership of the police department, and at the end of the day, I came to at least as far as me, Kevin Jordan, a view that if they'll agree to level funding, which they agreed to, of the overall police budget, that I would not support a cut to the Quinn bill. In that, if that's what they feel is so uber important to fund, then they have to make it up in other areas of the budget. They have lived up to their end of the deal last year and this year. And so I have not supported a reduction, me, Kevin, but I'm only one of 15, on the Quinn bill. And so, I thought they came through on their end, so I'm gonna come through on my end. And I felt it keeps us out of micromanaging the individual lines, but it does keep us with the global cap to the total spending of that 12 million two number. And, so I know they've had to move a lot to stay at level funding, and I know the chief isn't that thrilled with level funding, but, I felt that was a fair compromise, so I'm gonna live up to my end of the deal.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilor
Just have a
Valentin.
question based on your statement. Where does the times that they come in for overtime fall into all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you recall at finance and they came in for overtime, that got reduced to keep it at the 12,238. In fact, they came in for 200,000 and they had to reduce it to 150 because I did the math out for them and they were 50,000 over. So they agreed to amend their proposal because apparently they thought they needed my vote to be one of the 10 to get it passed. So, it does work, and they did live up to the 12,238,000 last year, and it's there you have it. As you see, it was 12 million last year. It's actually down from the year before. You know, it's like 12.3. We went to 12.
Yeah.
And I know some of it ebbs and flows too with some of the grant money. You know, obviously if they get more grant money, it improves their situation, but I can't argue against the point about what the state did. I mean, you're 1,000% correct. It's total justice. I mean, they passed the statute that says we're going to keep the law in the books that allows Quinn bill, but at the same time, the state legislature decided they can't afford it. So they just pulled the funding, leaving that to the municipalities. It's not right.
Mr. President,
But my word is my word on this. Counselor Greenie?
on the object code, please.
His proposal object code is 51920 to
I
reduce.
don't understand that. I'd like to vote on it.
Oh, okay, I hear you. Counselor McGivern?
Thank you, Mr. President. The proposed cut doesn't work. If you're gonna cut what the state is already reneged on, you have to cut the amount that the state's reneging on, because how would the police department decide which employees would not get their share of the Quinn bill itself? The Quinn bill is to make sure that we have educated cops. The new contract has addressed this in terms of weaning the system down, in which there is no longer the percentage, no longer the money that is guaranteed to those that have been around for some time. As our officers are retiring, the demand on the Quinn bill line item is slowly, but is going away. And part of this line item is for the new contract, I believe. I don't think it's been separated this year, but part of this line item is for the new contract too. So the $50,000 would just make it a very difficult task for payroll to figure out.
Thoughts, comments?
I miss Gordon
I
Alexander.
apologize, it has been separated, Mr.
I miss
President.
Gordon Alexander. He would
Yes.
always have the best statement on why we needed to do this.
No, and he was 100% right. Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. I'm philosophically in favor of doing this, but we had hours and hours of debate on this a few years ago, and we begrudgingly acknowledged the fact that the mayor is the one with the power to negotiate the contracts, and then it becomes a contractual matter between the city and the department. And so we're, I think, in a difficult position to try to parse the number through the budget process, for those reasons. Thank you.
It became it's like sick leave buyback. You know, this is the other thing that needs to be fixed. And the mayor needs to fix these things in negotiations, ultimately.
We can't negotiate.
And we can negotiate, so. Council President.
I agree wholeheartedly about the contract negotiations. It's really at the mayor's feet. They're negotiating right now. I'm sure that the EMD services that we're wasting money on, and that's, not trying to combine the fire department staff and the police department staff, so our guys aren't going out babysitting some guy that fell down drunk outside a bar, the fire department, and, we're wasting our money on that whole avenue, and, AMR's making a killing, and they're going to the cause where they're getting the money for the ambulance service, while our guys from the fire department are not. I mean, and we were told at his beginning of his administration that this was going to be, he was going to sit down and negotiate this with the police department. It hasn't happened again, and, it's probably not happening now as we speak. So, I have voted against the Quinn bill twice, I think, in the last 3 times I was at it. It's a decision that the mayor has to make through negotiations with them. He told us he was going to, and then when he actually met the union, apparently he backed way off, because that's really what he did.
Contract's up for negotiation right now. I think the firefighters' contract is up right now, too, so.
They're sitting in negotiations.
So, we'll see what happens, right? Any other thoughts on Counselor Sullivan's motion? Proposal on the table is to reduce the Quinn bill, line 51920, by $50,000. Clerk will call a roll. A yes vote is to cut it, a no vote is not to cut it.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
No.
No?
Jordan?
No,
Leahy?
he's
Oh, yeah.
abstaining.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
1 yea, 13 nays, and 1 abstain.
How'd you get your second? You only ended up with 1 vote. Anything else?
There
with-
was no second, actually. Because, no, there wasn't.
Council Easy did.
Yeah, for
Purpose of
discussion. Okay, Counselor Leahy's back with us, and on page 18?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Counselor Bresnahan.
Item 52410, repaired motor vehicles, level funding from last year.
Second.
Reduce it to 7,000.
Okay, repair.
Reduce 7,000 from that line item.
What line, please?
52410.
Page 19.
Oh, that's on 19.
Oh, I'm
I was
sorry.
asking on cities. 18, anything? Nope, okay, 19. You got the floor, Counselor Bresnahan. Fire away.
52410 is the object code.
Yep.
Get it back to level funding, reduce it by 7,000.
Okay, to 53, okay. That was how much was funded by the council in the FY 2016 budget. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call a roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $7,000 reduction, a no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi? Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
12 yeas, 2 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction.
Mr. President,
Counselor Leahy.
yeah, can I make a cut object code 53420 with postage, which Peter Thomas giving me a bad eye?
How much would you like to reduce it by?
I'd like just to make it, where is it? It's about 1,700?
Okay, reduced by 1,700 from 3,700 to 2,000, which was the amount from last year. Okay, that's been seconded. Any discussion?
It is what it is.
Yep. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of reducing line 53420 by $1,700. A no vote is not to cut.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez? Lisi? Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
14 yeas.
Mr. President?
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Counselor Graney.
Yeah, I just have a question, and I may have missed it in the budget hearing. I just need an explanation on 53210.
53210.
Yeah, there's
Yes,
an-
sir.
an
Medical?
increase- There's an increase there of 30,000. Could you explain the rationale there? I must have missed it in the hearing.
Yeah, the acting Chief Duguay stated there's a bunch of new recruits coming in, and that's their medical.
Okay, I
Their
remember.
medicals to send them to the.
Physicals and
Yeah.
All right, I remember.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Counselor Bresnahan?
Item 54830,
Yes.
supplies motor vehicle, reduce it by 10,000 to get level funding to FY16.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to reduce supplies motor vehicle, line 554830 by 10,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. A yes votes in favor of the cut, a no votes to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi? Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
12 yeas, 2 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Any other, Counselor Bresnahan?
Object code 53010, 5,000 to get back to level funding.
Is there a second? This is for data management services, reduced by 5,000, 53010. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for a $5,000 cut to line 5310. A no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
This is data management services, the police department. There's a proposal to reduce by 5,000 level funding to FY16.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
Yes.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
11 yeas, 3 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Okay, Counselor Bresnahan?
Item, object code 52420, 2,200, reduce to get it back to level funding.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded to reduce repair and maintenance of other, to reduce by $2,200 level funding to FY16. This is a $2,200 proposed reduction. Line 52420. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call it, I'm sorry, Councilor LeBron
I'm
Martinez.
sorry, what was that, what does that include? The repair and maintenance of others? What is it?
Just sort of, it's a catch-all of repair anything that's not a motor vehicle or building and ground. It could be equipment, it could be, fix, fill in the.
Radios.
Radios, fill in the blank. It could be a whole bunch of things.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Very
It
important.
was funded at 5,800 last year. The proposal is to increase it to 8,000. There's a proposal to keep it at 5,800. Okay. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to reduce the $2,200. A no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi? Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
No.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
9 yeas, 5 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Anything else on page 19? Okay, I'll propose a 55,830, a $1,200 reduction. This is clothing reimbursement. I noticed this was jumped up by $1,200. This is again line 55830, was 1,500 this past year. They bumped it up to 2,700.
Mr. President?
No particular, yeah, Councilman.
Do we know if it might be related to the new recruits that you were talking about? I mean, if there's an increase in medical or there an increase in other things like this?
They're gonna be in the academy though, all fiscal year. I couldn't imagine clothing, that should not be for them.
I'm just
The medic- no, I
I'm just
know,
thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's a good thinking. It's just, no, that should be for usually contractual for somebody for clothing reimbursement, but, yeah.
The chief's contract.
Oh, they gave the chief a bump of 1,200? Of course, that's all subject to appropriation, right, Counselor McGivern?
No.
No,
Contractual.
subject
the
to
motion.
appropriation, right? All right.
We vote on the contract.
All right, well, they haven't brought that in. I haven't seen the chief's contract. His new one? I haven't seen it. Okay, so proposal on the floor is to reduce it to level funding by $1,200, and if they need more, they'll come back. That'll be my policy statement on that. Any other thoughts? Clerk will call the roll. Yes votes for the $1,200 reduction, no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
5 yeas, 9 nays.
By your vote, you've voted not to reduce that line item by $1,200. Anything else on page 19? Counselor Sullivan?
I just have a question on the telephone usage charges. Could we go over that
Telephone
one more
usage,
time?
53,410. Okay, anything you'd like to tell us about that?
No, I was
A
asking.
question,
Yeah.
seems to be level funded, I guess. Here, he's looking at, well, hold on a minute, let me get my ruler out, make sure I'm reading my lines across, correct? You're right. They transferred in money, but it is up. I'm not particularly sure why.
Yeah, I mean, it just appears to me we only expended,
We budgeted at 30 last year. I'm not sure why it jumped up from 15 to 16, but 16, we started with 30. I don't have the transfer reports. It doesn't seem like they're spending 30, because in the first half of the year, they spent 8,600.
right, and, I'm just tracking that number as being a 17,000 number, the previous year 19,000. Yeah, it seems just a huge jump.
I haven't done enough research on that line, to be honest with you, to give
If
you
it's fair to
a real opinion, yeah.
use your quote, they can come back to us for more later. I'd propose a $10,000 cut in that line.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to reduce telephone usage charges by $10,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of a $10,000 reduction to this line, a no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
I'm sorry, I missed the line item. What was it? Which one?
Telephone usage
Okay,
charges?
yes, yes.
Lisi? Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern? Roman? No. Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
12 yeas, 2 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction. Anything else on page 19? Hearing none, moving on to page 20, Fire Department.
Actually, I'm sorry, I did have a question
Oh,
about.
okay, go ahead, Counselor Valentin.
So, object code 55120, the K-9 unit, I just had a question because I see that the budget is for 9, but so far they've only spent 1,700. So that seems awful low.
I agree.
I don't know if it has to do with,
I think a purchase of a new dog.
say that again?
I think it's a purchase of a new dog. Yeah.
So it's like an upcoming plan. I mean, I
I
didn't know if there
Do
was.
you know, Jim, is that legit?
I don't know for a fact, but that's what, I,
9,000's what we budgeted last year. We started them at 9. I don't know what, you're right, the actual seems to be running low.
It's very low.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it's fine. I won't make a proposal. I was just wondering
Okay.
if there was a reason for that. That's fine.
don't
Thank you.
not do it because of what I said, because I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, unless somebody has a strong feeling about it. I mean, I would just, it was a point of information for me.
Yeah. Hey, if we can save a buck, we save a buck. If not, what do you think, Counselor Leahy? Should we leave it or not?
I mean, we could always have them come in and explain it. I mean, if that's your, I mean, I don't care either way. I was about to say I don't have a dog in the race.
Yeah. Talk about stats the whole night.
It's
I don't have a dog in the race, so either way.
No pun
very good,
intended.
very
Come
good.
on.
Well, we'll be charitable. Maybe we should just leave it.
All right, so let's move on.
Okay? We'll move
We
on to
very
Fire
much
Department.
appreciate the work that the K-9 unit does.
Yes, they do a great job. All right. Fire Department, anything here? People like to propose? Counselor Vacan.
Object code 51101. This, budget line in last year's budget was 106,164, although it's showing in this budget at 120.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not sure how that number got changed, but it results in a $14,000 raise when we're trying to scrape together 2 and 3% raises for people. So I think it needs to be brought into line. We've had no contract come before us, so I'm not sure where these numbers are coming from. So I'd recommend the reduction of 11,000 on that line.
Yep. Is there a second? I'll certainly second. Under discussion, we had at just a second kind of what you're saying on this. The chief, it was decided by the mayor to give him a $13,836,000 pay raise, which in the midst of having brownouts, in the midst of the department having the financial struggles, I think it looks extremely cold. And I said this all to John, I don't know if that's the messaging on it, but to take for yourself a pay raise of $14,000 in the midst of these fiscal times, and in particular the circumstances in your department, I mean, a couple grand, you know, $2,000, $3,000 raise is one thing. 14 grand? I don't think so. 12% pay raise? I mean, that's just not okay. So as affectionate as I am towards him, I think a $3,000 raise is much more appropriate at this time for the fire chief. We cannot support a $14,000 raise, at least I can't. And so I think the reduction of 11,000 makes a lot of sense. That would give him a $3,000 raise. I mean, the year before, his raise was only $700. You know, in the year, he kind of goes up incrementally at about $1,000 a year. To go up 14,000 in 1 year, there's just no way, not in the midst of these circumstances. Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. I believe that we had signed the appropriation in November of last year. So he's already being paid $120,000, and that we retroed his pay to the start of this fiscal year when it came before us in November. So although the budget reflects the 106, we had already given him the $14,000 raise last year in last year's budget.
I do not recall that as a vote, and I certainly would have remembered us voting to give him a $14,000 raise. So if that came in as some standalone item, unless that was transferred inside their own personnel to personnel, that's one thing, but I do not recall ever voting to give the chief a 14 grand raise. I know we budgeted 106, 164, so there you have it. But any other thoughts? Comments? Councilman McGivern.
I think it's more in the form of a question, but the chief of police and the chief of the fire department are contractual contracts that the fire department negotiated by I believe the fire commissioners with the mayor's input, and the police chief, as we know, is negotiated solely by the mayor. I know we vote on contracts when there's a new hiree. We voted on Chief Scott's one time. Yep. We voted on, I don't know if we ever voted on Chief Pond's contract at all.
No, we asked him that at a hearing, and he has what's called a benefits-only, non-salary contract, and so he doesn't have that kind of arrangement, because I asked, I said, where did this came? And he said it was just decided between him and the mayor that would be the pay.
But we appropriated it.
I don't recall ever voting on an appropriation to give him 14 grand. So I'd have to see that, because I certainly wouldn't have voted for that.
Well, we've never been provided with a contract, and again, I don't know if we've ever voted on any contract for Chief Pond, but I did see a contract tonight that seems to say it does deal with the salary.
Where?
The city solicitor has a copy of it.
I've never seen that. And of course, there's an ordinance that says we're supposed to be provided that 72 hours after approval, and, you
That's
know,
the
we have
point.
ordinances on all that.
That's the point I'm bringing up.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be on record in the city clerk's office, and, you know, yada, yada, yada with all that, so I don't,
The mayor that negotiates the contract
correct,
for the fire department chief.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, so, motion on the floor is to reduce by 11,000, leaving the extra, the regular pay plus an extra 3,000. Clerk will call the roll.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Nope.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
12 yeas, 3 nays.
By your vote, you have approved the reduction in that line by 11,000. Anything else on page 20, Fire Department? I have a couple. One was repair and maintenance building and grounds reduced by 5,000 to level fund to FY16. This is line 52,500. It's the third from the bottom. That was 44,555 last year, and somehow they got in here for 9,000. So unless somebody knows what that was about, I could never get an explanation as to why that justified going up so much.
Second.
So, proposals to reduce it back to 4,000, which is what we budgeted in the FY16 budget. Okay. Any discussion? Counselor McGivern.
On Easter Sunday, as I walked the Easter drag, Mr. President, I had a chance to stop by the fire station on Northampton Street. We need to appropriate a lot more than $9,000. That thing is falling apart.
Okay. Should come in with a capital proposal though, right? I mean, not an expense line.
We have bond.
Or bond. I mean, if they have real repairs, that should be coming in as a capital bond project, exactly, you know. Okay. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $5,000 reduction to line 52,500, repair and maintenance building and grounds. A no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
11 yeas, 4 nays.
By your vote, you've approved the reduction. And one other one, which was repair and maintenance other, 52,420, reduced by $5,000. The reason I'm supporting this cut is this is the line that I believe should be reduced related to these pull boxes, which really need to be disbanded as quickly as possible. No real tangible reason why we have these. We have requested an estimate as to how much the department at this point spends on those. I haven't received back any input as to what the costs are to maintaining these 80-something plus pull boxes in town. I arrived at a number of saying approximately $5,000. I haven't been given an estimate yet. So I figured something towards this has to be going towards this. So I figured for now, reduce it from 15 to 10 and ask that they disband those 82-something pull boxes.
I just filed an order on that, asking those questions.
Yeah, of course, you know, it's not gonna help us later, unfortunately. It's good to get the info. I hope we get that. Counselor Sullivan?
I did get a response today that the cost of maintaining those was virtually nothing.
Really?
That's what the response was, so.
So they repair themselves?
Who was the response from?
I got that from Chief Pond, by way of, Mr. Tangway.
That's interesting. 82 pull boxes, self-maintaining.
83.
83. Interesting. Well, Should we be more generous and reduce it by 2,000 instead, or do we think that's really zero? What do you think? You were more of a researched and leader on this than I
Pull
was.
those as a kid.
I'll defer to you, Counselor Sullivan. You were
Well-
leading, I know, and Counselor Leahy were doing a lot more work than I was. even on
Even
this.
if it costs nothing to maintain, I saw one just this week laying on its side down by the train station. Just, so it's gotta cost something to keep picking up the scrap all over the place. I don't, I don't understand it, but I think there's some cuts to be made. I think this is a good place to start.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. Clerk will call the roll. Proposal on the table is $5,000 to reduce from repair and maintenance other 52,420. Yeah.
Can I make an amendment?
Sure.
To that line item, I'll propose a cut of 2,000.
That sounds good. I support that.
Second.
Friendly amendment to reduce, instead of 5,000, make it a proposal to reduce 2,000 to line 52,420 as a friendly amendment. So the proposal is to reduce by 2,000. Any other discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the cut. A no vote is to deny the cut.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
No.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
10 yeas, 5 nays.
By your vote, you've made the reduction to repair and maintenance other $2,000. Anything else on page 20? Okay, moving to page 21. Did anybody have anything on this? I mean, I had a couple tiny ones, but every dollar counts. Fire prevention on line 53,120, $500 to keep it consistent. We appropriated $1,500 to start the year last year. I don't see a reason to jump it to 2,000, so I would propose a cut of $500 here.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $500 reduction to the fire prevention line 53,120. A no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
No.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
4 yeas, 11 nays.
Okay, by your vote, you have decided not to make that reduction. The next proposal was line 57,100, in-state travel reduced by $100, consistent to what we appropriated for FY16. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to cut this line by $100. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $100 reduction. A no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
No.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
3 yeas and 12 nays.
Okay, by your vote, you've agreed not to make that cut. The last one I had on this page was object code 57,300, dues and subscription. We appropriated $2,400 last year. The proposal on the table is now to increase it by $100 to $2,500. I propose a $100 reduction for level funding to $2,400. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the $100 reduction to line 57,300. A no vote is to deny.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
No.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Nope.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee? McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman.
No.
4 yeas, 11 nays.
By your vote, you've agreed not to make a reduction to that line. Anything else on this page, page 21? Okay, hearing none, moving on to page 22, Building Department. Okay, Counselor Lisi?
On the line item related to the building commission, I'll be abstaining. The building commissioner is my husband.
Okay, makes perfect sense. So Counselor Lisi will be abstaining from any vote related to the object code 51101. Okay? Any motions related to page 22? Okay, I have one. I make a proposal to reduce line 51101, building commissioner salary, by $5,000. I see that the gentleman has been in here for a $7,000 increase. He's been getting approximately $2,000 raises. I think he should get another $2,000 raise because he is doing a good job, but $7,000, that to me is too much. So I'm reducing the $7,000 increase by $5,000 to $2,000.
Second. Sorry.
Yep, okay.
I just have
Counselor
a
Valentin.
I just
Yep.
have a question, and I don't know if we need to suspend the rules and ask Kara, but with these types of adjustments, is it legal for us to do this based on the fact that these are contracts that are in place? I'm just trying to get some guidance here. I don't want to be, I mean, I'm looking at, the proposal with this position, the proposal with Wisteria Hearst. I'm just kind of looking at what are the ramifications here.
They can only pay him what we give them.
There's no contract.
The mayor can agree to give anybody whatever he wants for it. You can give him a $25,000 pay raise. If we say you get 4, that's what you get. Because we're not required to fund what the mayor says he chooses to give people for raises. This is a non-union position anyways.
Well, that's why I'm just asking, I mean,
Right. Yeah, sure.
I mean,
I don't know.
if somebody wants to second my motion to suspend the rules and ask Kara, I just want to make sure that if we're going to be,
Second.
Sure. No, that's fine. No, you asked a good
if we're going to
question.
be addressing
Question.
things like this, I would rather have everything,
Sure.
So I thought these were union, I thought this was a union position, but maybe I'm,
Motion to suspend the rules to allow Kara Cunha to address us, to answer some questions of the city council on budget matters. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
So to answer Counselor Valentin's question, it's going to depend on the particulars of the position. The building commissioner is in the Professional Supervisors Association, and there is a memorandum of agreement that increased the salary retroactive to May, I think it was May 1st, 2016. In that case, though, it is subject to appropriation.
Did we get the MOA? Because I've never seen that.
I would have to go back and look at the agendas.
We didn't. So I'll help
There's
you.
no, unless there's I'm guessing there probably was no appropriation requested
They transferred the
with
money.
that. There would have been transferred, but it is subject to appropriation. But, for other positions, if they're part of a collective bargaining agreement and the agreement has been funded, and approved, the first year has been approved, then subsequent raises are also approved.
and
So-
yeah, and that's my understanding, if I remember correctly, last year, we had this conversation regarding, I think it was Jeff Burkott. Was it Jeff?
yeah.
I think it was somebody in that office, and we had the same conversation and about kind of, how much flexibility do we really have, so.
Right, so it depends on, it's gonna be a case by case.
Thank you, Joe.
Councilor McGivern.
Kara, most contracts are 2 to 3 years, and I understand sometimes an MOA or an amendment to a contract or a new contract comes along and doesn't need an appropriation, but has an impact on future years. So we do need to vote on those contracts, even if there's no appropriation, because of the future impact on the budget.
Right, well, in any contract, the contracts themselves, the entire contracts always take effect July 1st. So when you approve a budget on July 1st, you are essentially approving the contract because you're approving the amounts that are in the budget. As far as collective bargaining agreements.
But I thought
And so if a collective bargaining agreement takes effect July 1st and you're submitted a budget that has those amounts in it, and you approve it, you are approving the
But I thought you said the MOA is retroactive back to,
This is a different situation. And I think you're on the right track, and that's where each situation is gonna be different. And there's a difference between a contract in general and then MOAs that subsequently amend the contract, so.
thank you.
So at least we know, I don't think there's any dispute on this one, at least as it relates to an MOA. Apparently went back retro to May to give the gentleman a $7,000 a year increase. And they must have appropriated the portion for the rest of this fiscal year from some transfer, because we didn't come here for a transfer, so they must have been some money available in some line or something, they transferred it. But it's coming into us on the first instance here, so. I feel a $2,000 increase is fair, it's consistent with what the gentleman has been receiving, he does a good job, but 7,000, can't go for that. Counselor Sullivan?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment, I guess.
Sure.
To make it a $4,000 decrease, to round the number up to 70,000. I've had a chance in the last 4 months to work with, not only is he doing a great job, I was with him in the armory the other day, well, a couple of weeks ago, and the exact spot where we were standing is where the building had the second collapse, less than 48 hours later. I can remember back to the days of Bart Thomas going into these buildings, and he was carrying a gun. Going into a lot of these places, it's not only just doing a good job as a building commissioner, but in many respects, he's in one of the more dangerous jobs, right in line with what the police and the fire department have to do, with very little recognition for that risk that he takes.
Okay, you sold me. I'll reduce it, friendly amendment, from instead of a 5,000 cut, 4,000 cut. Okay, anybody else? Councilor Bresnahan?
The problem that I have with this is that, you know, we have the health director who, you know, does a great job, has been here longer than the building commissioner, he has not seen a raise. You know, I mean, it's like, we're kind of handpicking who's getting raises and who's not. It's either everybody should get a raise or nobody should get a raise. And I don't think anybody should get a raise in these fiscal times. I think everybody's doing a great job, but, you know, the auditors they want the auditor to get the raise, they want the building commissioner to get the raise, the city engineers to get a raise. I imagine the DPW superintendent director is probably gonna be starting right when Bill walks out the door. Somebody new is gonna come in and making that same amount of money. I mean, we gotta be, you know, fiscally smart. And, you know, Holyoke becomes a training ground, people leave, that's all well and good. These are personal decisions. People have to make financial decisions in their life. But again, you know, very few people are getting raises, and it's just an unfortunate thing that people that have been here for a very long time, you know, that have been doing the job and doing a great job, because we're not having any outbreaks of any, you know, foodborne illnesses from a bad restaurant that's not clean, or a huge surge in hepatitis from a bad tattoo parlor, because the health department's doing their job out there. But we don't want to give them a raise. I mean, everybody gets a raise or nobody gets a raise, or people get small little raises, something to keep them, the cost of living adjustment. But to be throwing out thousands and thousands of dollars, it's not really fiscally responsible. And this is not about this particular position. It's just the overall how we're moving about this. I mean, I don't, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Any other thoughts? Okay, proposal on the table is to reduce the increase in the pay raise by 4,000 to give it a $3,000 increase. Okay.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Can you repeat those numbers again?
Yeah, so it's to reduce it by 4,000, so he'll go from 74,000 to 70,000. He's currently 66,837.
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Yes. Graney? Yes. Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi? Abstain. Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
Yes,
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tolman.
No.
11 yeas, 3 nays.
By your vote, you've approved the reduction by 4,000. Anything else on building department? Line, page 22? I had one, which also was on 51-202, property maintenance demo worker. There's proposed here a supervisor and 2 workers. When I was discussing this, it was supposed to be a supervisor and 1 worker. Neither one of these positions has been filled yet, to my knowledge. Counselor Sullivan, unless you have information, but I'm requesting that we have 2 new positions, not 3 new positions. And when I was discussing the proposal, I was always under the belief it was 2 new positions, not 3 new positions. So my proposal is to reduce line 51-202 by 43-044.
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. So this is to create, currently on the table, 3 new positions in the building department to oversee property maintenance and demo. And I am in support of this new approach, but I think we should try filling 2 of the jobs, and then we'll see if we need a 3rd before we go hog wild here with the 3. There'll be a supervisor who's supposed to be a working supervisor, and then a regular employee, and then take it from there.
Mr. President?
Yeah, Counselor McGee, yep.
Clarification, in finance, when this came up, the original intent was 1 supervisor and 2 employees to deal with the new approach on the demo. So that, to be fair, it was, I understand your point, you know, could you make it a supervisor and 1, and then try and get into the 3rd, but that was told to us.
All right. Well, okay, so I'll stand corrected on that piece. But I guess I would say let's ease into it then. You know, if the 2 positions, let's see how it goes and see if we really need a 3rd then, because that just seems like this is a big expense added on. You're talking about $135,000. That's a big commitment for us. By spending an extra $90,000 on this, I think that's a pretty good step forward. See how we go. We fill the 2 jobs, see how it goes, and then we can evaluate if we need a 3rd position once we get the other 2 on board. Okay, Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah. For doing this kind of work, you're really going to need 3 people in that department. I don't know how to couch this, but it's just doing some of the work they're going to be doing with just 2 people, or attempting to be doing, will be very, very difficult. And back to the finance question, at the time we were looking at also, there was a lot of other monies in the demolition fund that could be redirected towards this. I think part of the problem is those have been eliminated out of it in the hopes of a much bigger piece being replaced in the bonding package. But we're seeing a decrease in the demolition piece of it, and this is what's replacing it.
Counselor Lisi?
I'm going to amend the motion on the floor and ask that it be cut by 86,088, so we're zeroing out the item.
Second.
So eliminate 2 positions as opposed to 1, okay? Motion's been made and seconded to cut both of the new position, only leave the supervisor position.
I'm gonna.
Oh, okay, so that's gonna be a separate vote, okay? So the proposal on the table is to eliminate both new positions. Do you want to speak to that? Your motion is now on the floor.
Sure, thank you. So the $5,000 that was previously cut from the line item 51101 was to compensate the individual for the additional oversight and responsibilities of managing 3 new staff in the office. And if that line item is cut, I don't think that there's going to be a will to move forward on taking on additional responsibilities and oversight.
Councilor McGivern?
My reason for seconding the motion to cut is level funding, hiring freeze, and we just can't afford the positions. As much as I understand the argument for the positions do, in the long run, save money, I think the way we've been facing this budget is we got to get through the year, get through the next couple of years before we can start creating new stuff that would, even when it makes sense. So although I agree with or understand the reasoning for creating these positions, I don't think that this time we should be filling them.
Counselor Roman.
I'll be voting against the amended cut. I'm glad to see some of my colleagues are now on the tightening the fiscal belt in this department and not others. But I think that, thanks to Counselor Sullivan and his enlightenment on this issue and his heavy advocacy for these two positions, I think that they're needed in the city. When we talk about abandoned buildings and buildings falling, I think we advocated heavily for it. And I think they should, with the appropriate cuts that we have, are good, and we'll make it work. We'll see what we can do. And it goes back to everything else and every other cut we've said tonight. If someone doesn't want to do the job, we can find someone out there who would like to do the job, and if not, then it sits there, and then we cut it at a later date. But let's see if someone's willing to do it at that rate. And I just think that it's counterproductive to all the great work that Councilor Sullivan did and we did as a committee and as a body. So I'll be voting against that amendment.
Okay. All right. So proposal on the table, I'll send it to the clerk at this point, is to eliminate both positions. Oh, I'm sorry. He's just stretching. Or you want to, you want to speak?
Yeah, I want to speak. 11 o'clock.
Counselor Tallman.
11 o'clock, right? Is it time to go home or what? You're going to continue this? No, I'm against the cuts, as my colleague stated and Counselor Sullivan stated. I think in the long run, this was supposed to bring in, saving some money for the city. And I think and money's invested well, because this is money that we have a lot of abandoned buildings, a lot of properties that we have to take care of, and this was supposed to save us money with people, contracting out. So I'm totally against this.
Okay. So the proposal for motion one is going to be to reduce and eliminate 86,088, so that is cutting both jobs, as opposed to the other proposal, which was cutting one job. So that vote is now before us. The clerk will call the roll on eliminating 86,088 from property maintenance demo worker. Clerk will call the roll.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
No.
McGee?
No.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
So much for the hiring freeze.
I think that's the only one, Joe, the night you voted yes for a cut and I voted no.
Yeah, I was wrong.
I think you're right.
Reconsider my action.
6 yeas, 9 nays.
By your vote, you've agreed not to make that reduction. So we'll go back. The original amendment was to reduce by 43,044, which is to have two positions as opposed to 3. And any discussion? I think we've got our arms around the issue. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for eliminating one of the two positions. A no vote is to not eliminate any positions.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
No.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
Just in case you didn't hear that first no.
7 yeas, 8 nays.
By your vote, you've agreed not to cut that, so it stands at the moment at 86,088. Okay, any other motions on page 22? All right, let's see here. I did have two small ones. One was 53,190, education and training, $1,000. That's equals to what was appropriated last year. That creeped up to 3,000, so that's been seconded. 53,190, reduced by 1,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is for the $1,000 reduction, a no vote is to deny it.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Nope.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
No.
Lisi,
No?
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
No.
Roman,
No.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman.
No.
7 yeas, 8 nays.
By your vote, you've agreed not to cut that by 1,000. Next one is in-state travel, 1,500. That was also increased from 7,000 to 8,500 for no particular reason I could
Second.
tell. And that's line 57,100. That has been seconded. Under discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A vote is on reducing this line by 1,500 to level funding.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
No.
Graney,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
No.
Lisi,
Nope.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
No.
Roman,
No.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman.
No.
9 yeas, 6 nays.
By your vote, you've made that reduction. Anything else on 22? 1,500.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on 22? Hearing none. Moving to 23. Department of Weights and Measures. Anything on 23? Hearing none. 24, Office of Emergency Management. Hearing none. 25, Department of Forestry. Hearing none. 26, Office of Public Safety. Seeing none. 27, School Department, we already did. 28, City Engineer. Hearing nothing there. 29, DPW Administration.
President, can we go back to page 28?
28, okay. Engineer.
Just a question, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but is the Assistant DPW Superintendent and the engineer going from 67,542 to 83,406?
Yes.
Make a proposal, we reduce that by $12,000.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to reduce on page 28, Office of the City Engineer, reduce line item 51101, Engineer Assistant DPW Superintendent, from 83,406 by $12,000. That has been seconded. Under discussion, Counselor Bresnan.
I just don't see how, if we're rationalizing not giving folks raises of double-digit figures, how we can decide to give this position, not the person. I just doesn't mean, that's, you know, $13,000. I mean, is it, and actually, it's more than that. My apologies, but I mean, I don't see the sense in it. I don't at all. So that's why I make the proposal.
Any other discussion? Counselor Lopez?
Is this person have been in the city for over a year, or?
No.
Can you?
No, he's new.
He's new.
He's starting. I asked about this, and the answer I got back was, this is how much they promised him to pay him.
Making commitments, huh?
Does he reside in Hoyle? I know it's not a
No.
residency requirement.
No.
No. Counselor Lisi?
Just because it's the second time we're dealing with this evening, it seems that there are a lot of verbal agreements happening around hiring, so it'd be really great if we could somehow create some procedures to codify written agreements and contracts, hiring contracts.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, sounds like maybe an ordinance amendment or something we're gonna have to tweak, because they're bringing folks in and they're saying, hey, you have this salary, but,
And we did the same, so it's not just, they out there. We in the city council did the same thing.
we did, but on the auditor, you're right. I mean, I said to the auditor, I arrived at, he had to come up with something, right? You pick a number. And that's in the range. We have a range for auditor, though, high and a low, and the 75 was in the range. I'm assuming this is in the range.
71 is in the range, right?
Huh?
And 71 is in the range.
71 is in the range.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
So,
the only reason why I'm saying the written agreements would be really helpful all around, because I
Yeah.
think it would clarify things and
Right.
have like a document to point to when
Right.
some of these, questions come into play.
Yep,
So, Mr. President,
yep.
so this person is not getting paid that amount, or he is?
He's getting this rate at the moment.
Oh, he is?
He is.
Okay, oh, boy.
Yep. So the question is, do we want him to keep getting that rate? This is his first time coming in at the budget at this rate. Because the former guy in the last budget was the other rate. So the question is, do we want the engineer to make that amount? That's the vote.
And then
Yeah, Counselor Lisi.
if I may speak on this particular point now.
Absolutely.
I think that what we've seen of the engineer is really fantastic work. He really goes above and beyond and provides really detailed analyses for the city council to make decisions on. He's doing site visits. He's really hands-on and giving us a lot of information to make decisions with. So I'm going to be supporting retaining the rate as it is.
Counselor Bacon, did you have your hand up? or-
I did.
Okay.
I was just looking back at the last budget to see what we had budgeted. And we had budgeted at 73,526, and in 2015, we spent 73,810. So the numbers are all over the place in the department. And I don't know if it has to do with partial years or.
Yeah, maybe Matt was gone for a while and he
why
transferred some of it out.
Those discrepancies are there.
Yeah.
But if we're getting an experienced person, I don't know. This has happened with a couple other jobs too. I guess it just depends on the will of the body.
You got it. Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, I guess I could, I certainly see the counselor's point in this one. I had the conversation with the engineer myself, and, I mean, the superintendent hired him, and he made up a number. He could have said any number. So you guess whatever you want to guess, Mr. President. I guess, and then hearing from the superintendent on this, it didn't seem like we had a whole lot of other applicants. I don't know why, but this is what he told me. But in seeing how the engineer works with us, I'm really enthusiastic about keeping him on. I mean, I could see making a reduction. I think 12,000 is a little harsh. I'm going to make an friendly amendment to reduce his salary by $2,000.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second that. So instead of a $12,000 reduction, it'd be a $2,000 reduction. Okay? Is there any discussion on that? Okay, so we'll start taking, unless there's anybody who wants to make any substantive arguments at this point, we're gonna have a vote on the 2,000 number, and then we'll do a vote on the 12,000 number. Okay? All right. Yeah, go ahead,
Do
Counselor.
we know the start date of the current engineer?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so he was hired at this rate.
Yep. That's what he was told. What if they told him 150,000 a year?
I'd be interested to know in his vacation time, what he was promised.
It's his first time coming through here, but he's gotta run the gauntlet, you know?
It is, Mr. President, but it's within the salary range, and it was a negotiated salary. Not a contract.
Yep. Subject to appropriation. My favorite catchphrase.
So are the salaries in Springfield and Long Meadow, where everybody's going to.
They have a little bigger tax base than we have.
All right, yep, okay, so,
They don't. Just a bigger area.
all right. Yes, Councilor LeBron Martinez.
So, clarification, so he was hired at 86,038, right?
83,406.
83,406. And when we're gonna go even less now? Is that what we're saying?
The proposal, yeah, the point is that the former person, Mr. Sokop, was making 73. Then they hired this gentleman at 83. Some people in the room are taking exception with that, saying that the new guy, they don't feel 10,000 more than Mr. Sokop was making is appropriate. So one has a proposal to reduce it by 2,000, which is Mr. Bartley proposal, which I seconded. And then there's a $12,000 reduction proposal offered by Councilor Bresnahan. We're going to vote on that one next. Okay, so here we go. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the $2,000 reduction to the engineer line.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
No.
Graney?
No.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? Oh, I didn't hear you. LeBron Martinez?
I'm sorry, clarification again. So the yes is to,
Cut it by 2,000. A no vote is not to cut it by 2,000.
okay, yes.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
I'm sorry, Diosdado, is that yes or no?
No.
No, okay.
McGee? No. McGivern?
No.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
3 yeas, 12 nays.
That motion is not agreed to. Proposal on the table, if it is to go forward, is to reduce it by 12,000. You're still forwarding that? Okay. Clerk will call the roll, is to reduce the line by $12,000. Yes vote is for the 12,000 cut, a no vote is to not do 12,000 cut.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yep.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
5 yeas, 10 nays.
By your vote, that is not agreed to.
Mr.
So
President,
2,000 was rejected and 12,000, but by different people. That's kind of interesting.
I make a,
Counselor Roman,
I make a motion on that same object code number 7500.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to reduce by 7,500. I think we got the issue in hand. Motion on the floor is to reduce by 7,500. Clerk will call the roll. Yes vote is for $7,500 reduction. No vote is not to do.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
5 yeas, 10 nays.
Not agreed to. Any other amendments?
I make a motion to reduce it by 5,000.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to reduce it by 5,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll. Yes vote is to reduce it by 5. No vote is to deny.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Uh-huh.
Jordan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
6 yeas, 9 nays.
Not agreed to. Do we want to revisit the 2,000 or something thereof?
Just give them a $15,000.
Or it's going to be as is?
Let's revisit the 2,000.
Okay. Motion on the floor is made and seconded to go to $2,000 reduction. Clerk will call the roll. Yes vote is for a $2,000 reduction. A no vote is to not do a $2,000 reduction.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
Nope.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Uh-huh.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
No.
Lopez?
No.
McGee?
Nope.
McGivern?
No.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
No.
5 yeas, 10 nays.
Okay, I think we've beaten this issue
vote.
to the head, unless we're gonna come up.
Motion to delete.
The president make a
80,000.
motion to recess until Thursday night at 7 o'clock.
Second.
It was actually 6 o'clock is on the special meeting list.
It's almost
There's
done.
2 public hearings with DGR.
Yeah.
It says 7 o'clock on mine right here.
Does it? Hold on.
7 o'clock.
Aren't we almost
Yeah, it is. So there is a special meeting already posted for 7 o'clock if we want to go that direction. So it is 11:20. So what's the will of the body? Under discussion, the motion on the floor is to go into recess until 7 o'clock on Thursday.
I think this is a good time to break. It's 11:20, and the next item that's coming up is DPW. I'm assuming there's going to be quite some discussion about that.
Are we done with page 28?
We could come back to 28 on 7 o'clock, but on that date, I suppose. The only thing I'm gonna say is I'm not adverse to coming Thursday at 7. My only thing is our 45-day window ends on Friday, the 17th, so we absolutely positively have to finish on Thursday, like.
We're more than half into it.
I agree.
mean, and the big items are coming to a close in the sense of the ones that are usually more controversial.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
prior to going into a state of somnambulance, I think it would be a good idea for
Okay.
us to.
yep. No, and I'm sensitive to that. I know I really don't like going much past 11, because you start becoming ineffective here at a while. We get tired. So, we get a lot done tonight, so this is good. All in favor of recessing until 7 o'clock on Thursday?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Show of hands. Raise your hand if you're in favor of recessing till 7